Well, I guess we're here for another exciting installment, not extolment, you moron, of the ever so eventful, exciting, random, rant-filled Thursday night. Welcome everybody. Welcome to another Thursday live stream with me, your weird-ass host, DH Thorne, and your even weirder co-host, the Flesh Priest. There he is, looking all weird.
Good evening.
Good evening. So I got a little bit of my my off-brand, we won't say what brand it is, just in case, with a little bit of room in it. I mean, a little rum in it. So if I get a little floopy towards the middle of the stream, you know why. Let me just adjust my lighting. I think a little bit dimmer would be nice. What do you think?
You said a little bit of room in that bottle.
Yeah, a little bit of room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's grog-like.
I tend to like a little bit of room in all of my drinks.
A little bit of room, it always goes a long way. All right, who do we got here tonight? Let's see.
We have, let me do the participants thing. We have Asarte Azeroth, BB Rose, I think that's actually a newcomer here. CM Helnikainen, Jeff524, Gogo, Murdered Sun, I think that's also a new name. Stort Henny, that one might also be new. Timothy Foster, and Wyatt Coverdale.
So we got at least three potential spammers to watch out for. So if we have any mods here tonight, any blue wrenches, get ready, get your weapon sharp. We may have some, no, I'm kidding. I mean, aside from the ones who spam like the porn links, which, you know, that seems to be like a new trend on YouTube videos, especially mine, probably from haters. They probably subscribed our channel to everything just to troll us a little bit, but
I don't know who those bots are expecting to poll. Like, I don't know. I've never been in the middle of watching a live stream and just like, oh, hey, I need to go fap now.
And they're not even like links. It's just like blah 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 dot blah. It's not even a full link. It's like just some random stitching together of consonants.
They could actually be a link. You'd be surprised how many fucking extensions are out there now.
Oh, I know about it because I just changed the extension of my website to probably shouldn't have been pouring that live on the camera. The extension on my website had to change because I was tired of fucking around with DuckDuckGo and I didn't want to wait for them to release the website. So it's no longer .com, it's now .co. That wasn't in an attempt to bite off, become a living god.co or whatever, bog.co. It was just simply a lot easier because otherwise I would have been waiting for months and months and months and months. So I just picked up the other one and now it all works. You know, getting hosting sucks, to be brutally honest with you. Hosting can be a pain. It's not like it was back in the glory days of GeoCity and you could use Notepad to code your website. It's really not that easy anymore like it used to be. So to me, it was easier when you had to code it by hand. That was easier than using all the stuff you use these days.
Yeah, it's very, that's what I experienced when trying to set up my own website is they don't make it easy for you to just do everything on your own. Just, no, you need our templates and all right, if you really want to do it on your own, we'll let you, but you gotta like really jump through some hoops. Are you sure you don't want to build a website with Squarespace, the sponsor of tonight's live stream? No, I'm not doing that.
By the way, let me know if the levels of audio are good. I have a little bit of music blowing around in the background there. Hopefully not too loud. If it is too loud, let me know. I can tune it down a little bit more. It's like maybe 12%, so I can always drop it down a notch if I have to. Sort of helps to keep me in a vibe, I notice. When I don't have music, I tend to go like, you know, I don't know, too much empty noise. It makes me crazy. I
feel it. I put a little bit of something on in the background, just helps you focus. So we did, hold on, I'm sifting through the comments right now and YouTube is fighting me. So we have a question from a newbie, if you want to give some thoughts. So
yeah, give me 1 second. I just got to fix something here. Just hold that thought. Just a second. Okay, good. That'll be good for the moment. Actually, okay. No, let me turn off the. We know what's coming.
I've heard that is the thing with Wix. Wix does not seem... Yeah, honestly, any of those websites just kills it for, you know, any of the website development kits. It's good if you just need to get something going, it seems, but yeah, no, if you go into it with any kind of creative spark, it just seems fucking awful.
And they're mostly, websites have changed. It used to be your website was your social media platform. Once upon a time, if you really wanted that, you had a good website with a forum, and that was how you connected with people. There wasn't all this Facebook, even MySpace wasn't even a thing yet, really. And so you had like BBSs and chat rooms and all that kind of stuff, ICQ, you know, I'm old. And that was actually really cool because you know why it was better? Honestly, you had more of a reason to look around and find other people's creativity online. Nowadays, it's all cookie cutter. And it's all basically the same website with just different plugins and stuff. And social media makes it even worse because you don't even get to control the colors or the themes or anything. It's literally just here, blue and white on everything. Oh, here, you know, whatever dark theme they've got is the best bet you got now. So there's really like, you know, we've really lost the plot a little bit, in my opinion. A lot of that has sort of fallen apart, and it kind of makes me sad. Like when I look at my own internet usage, I don't even, besides social media websites, you know, or forum websites or something like that, I don't do much browsing anymore. Like I don't go looking for stuff the same way I used to. I don't know. It just kind of fell apart.
There's less mom and pop shops on the internet. It's all
Correct.
big box stores.
Correct. It's all Walmart now, and it really kind of we need a new internet with hookers and blackjack all over again. Basically, like the deep web, but you know, instead of like you log on and suddenly your house gets raided by, you know, whatever, your webcam turns on and your
the glow boys.
Yeah, or the webcam turns on. Yeah. So, well, anyway. So I guess how many people we got here yet? I got 32. That's enough to start answering questions. So what's that original question? Is it something that's going to get me going?
Well, yes, because you can go off on anything, as I have been observer to many times. So yeah, let's see.
I was always really good at that game Boulder Dash because I could do that. But I think it was Boulder Dash. That's the one where you get the term and you got to like make up the explanation. I could go for like an hour making shit up. It's great.
Yeah, I think I knew it under a different name, but yeah, that is your calling. If you could make a job out of that.
Well, I kind of did. Except I'm not making, well, I am making it up, just in a good way.
So from BB Rose says, kind of new here. Hello, everybody. I would love something about astral projection, the astral plane. Maybe it's been talked about, but can never get enough of it since I haven't been able to achieve it.
Yes, you have. Sure you have. What most people talk about online about astral projection, I might have to walk this back a little bit because you know me, I got to over-explain everything. People misunderstand, mainly because of the pop culture understanding of what it is. They think that astral travel or the astral realm or what is astral is some hyper vivid lucid dream where you literally pop out of your body and walk around your room and do all the things and see all the things that are in the real world. Like you can fly to Paris and see Paris firsthand in an astral sense. I am not saying that remote viewing doesn't have any validity to it. There is some validity to it, in my opinion. However, this idea that that is what astral travel really is really pop culture stuff. It's really online urban myth type stuff. I'm saying this from the perspective of someone with very, at least adequate practices, we'll put it that way, okay? It doesn't sell books when you tell people that it is not necessarily the litmus test of astral travel. Now, can you have a really vivid astral journey? Abso-fucking-lutely. you drop the right chemicals, you do the right things and get yourself into a state of consciousness that is really ecstatic, really deep meditation, you can absolutely experience some vivid, what are basically lucid dreams. So lucid that you will feel like you are popping out of your body. The astral is real. I'm not denying the astral. Rather, the astral is seen by most people from a materialistic perspective. We see the world in layers because we ourselves feel embedded in a material world. And because we feel we have been embedded in the material world, we also feel like there are other worlds, just like we feel like there's other planets and other rooms in our house and all of this kind of stuff. Again, I'm not saying it can't be very vivid. You know, Astarte saying I've experienced amazing astral travel, and I'm not even saying that you can't have knowledge of places you've never been that can be somewhat validated. I say somewhat, because I've put many people who claim to be capable of astral traveling, if you put them to a realistic test, they always fail. I've never had one actually get it. Mm-hmm. I've had people come close though, and that's where the value comes in. You have to realize that what you see when you go into an astral experience is symbolic, and it's not a one-for-one mirror of reality. You're not disembodied flying around somebody's house and seeing their house as it is, for example. That I do not believe in. I've never experienced it. I've never known anybody who, no matter how much they bragged and said they could do it and said, you just don't know what you're talking about, Thorne. Okay, then prove me wrong. What's under that cup in my cabinet? Oh, well, I can't see the cup. Fine, I'll just put it on my shelf. What's on my shelf? But to put it in, to give it some validity, I will say that I've had people say that they've seen me in my library. I don't have a library. They've seen me in my library reading a book and studying for magic or something like that. Well, no, I don't have a library. There's nothing like a library in my house. Nothing. I don't even have a reading room. I have nothing. I don't even have a chair with books behind it. None of that. None of that. My books barely get touched these days.
I will bet the thematic symbolism of what was represented was valid, though.
Yes, I was, at the time that they claimed that they were seeing me, I was watching YouTube videos in deep study and thought of a particular subject. So, that is potentially possible, and that is the potential value of the practice. You can, as they say, soul travel, astral travel, through the symbolic realm of the astral and see things that are there. But like a dream, how they manifest may not be a one-for-one for what they really are. So another good example of this is at night when you're sleeping. If you have a dream, I've said this like every week for like a month now. If you have a dream of Bigfoot chasing you through a jungle, and you wake up and you go, holy shit, that was a scary dream. Why the hell was Bigfoot chasing me through a jungle? Why am I dreaming about Bigfoot? It's the middle of winter. What the heck? We don't even have a jungle around here.
You say that like you know when Bigfoot season is. Do you know
Good
something
point.
I don't?
Well, you do live in Bigfoot country. Actually, there's supposed to be big feet around here, sort of upstate too, but whatever. They're everywhere. They're always everywhere. Sam Squamches. Behemoth X, I love you, brother. Welcome. He says, I'm with you now, DH, and I see you streaming. Nothing is under the cup, and incense is on your shelf. No, but close enough. I feel your presence. I feel your deep, beautiful voice booming through my mind. What's up, Behemoth X? So why did you dream about Bigfoot chasing you through the jungle? And people say, well, what the hell does Bigfoot symbolize? And they'll go like well, Bigfoot doesn't necessarily symbolize anything specific. Bigfoot might just represent something that scares you. And it's a manifestation of something subconscious that you're not dealing with, that you need to deal with. something primal maybe. All the things that Bigfoot could sort of symbolize, but it doesn't mean that there's literally a Bigfoot chasing you. Same thing in the astral. Yes,
you're basically saying that, I don't know, let's say I took a bottle of hot sauce and I left it on my shelf and I told you, you know, or somebody in the audience, like, astrally project over here and take a look at what the fuck did I leave on my shelf? And they would not be in this space looking around and all that, but, you know, maybe they see something really tasty.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Maybe
or maybe there's like a fireball on the shelf or something weird, yeah.
Or, you know, where I was going with it is maybe they're not literally seeing what is in here, obviously, but they're seeing what it represents to me of like, oh, this is delicious. I put that shit on everything.
Mm-hmm. Maybe you'll see ketchup because you like ketchup, you know? Maybe, you know, CM says it pretty well. It says, same as seeing, quote unquote, spirits vividly in your mind's eye. You'll get what you're meant to see, but know that your lazy brain is putting the simplest stickers on the things to try and convey the nature of the truth. So basically think of it like, instead of seeing a realistic representation of something, imagine the googly eyes, you know, slapped onto something, you know, really, really ghetto, you know, like that's a joke, but yes, it's in that. So I don't put much value in astral in the out of body sense is really what I'm trying to drive home. The astral has immense value though for meditative purposes. Now, when you said you've never been able to do it, who was the name of that person? Was that BB, by the way?
Yes, BB Rose.
Okay, good, because they were saying that they get what I'm saying. When you say you've never been able to do it, I got news for you. You're kind of doing it right now. What you're doing at all times in your incarnated way, your world that you see right now is a projection of something that you cannot describe, you cannot speak about. It's literally invisible. Literally invisible. However, the world that you see is like a projection of it. Now, this projection, it's really a projection from you. It's made out of things that you understand. It's not made out of literal fire. The fire is a symbol for what fire really is. That thing that you see is an astral symbol. But it is not the flame. The flame is invisible. The flame cannot be felt, it cannot be seen, it cannot be touched. None of your physical, mental, or even emotional qualities are the actual truth. They are reflections, projections, shadows of the truth. I guess I'll do the clap analogy for a moment. BB, if you're still with me, take your hands and go like this. Do that once or twice. What did you hear? You heard a clap, right? What did you feel? You felt the clap, right? What did you see? You saw a clap, right? No, you didn't. The sound that you heard was not the clap. The clap is something that cannot be spoken about, seen, or understood, but whatever the clap is, after it happens, and I'm being generous here because I don't believe in time either, by the way. After the clap happens, what you experience has to go through an infinity of layers of experience before it even gets to your brain. It's got to go as sound, which is made up of trillions and trillions of molecules being shuffled around by that. It's got to hit your eardrums, which have to vibrate. It's got to then send a signal to your brain. Your brain then has to process it, and then somehow, through some miracle, consciousness becomes aware of it as that sound. Well, that sound is not the clap. That stinging, that pleasant stinging between your hands, that's not the clap. What you saw is not the clap. What you think of as a clap is not the clap. Oh, we got one. Calderon Bruce.
Is he trying to inform us of something? I'm just not sure.
It's VOY FYI. I guess, I don't know, must be some voyeurism thing. Pretty hot.
What you're saying is all this that we experience is just the dark shadows of the the actual truth of the matter.
It's all hallucination. That hallucination is made out of Maya. That Maya is the astral. It is the astral, but it is just it is the astral that fits on the substance. It's an astral that correlates to the unspeakable and ineffable. But it's not, it's like, that is not the flame, but there is fire.
Some of the things that we say on here, just, I can't help but think of them out of context.
Like Hecka just did with the clap?
Okay, well, also that, but that's because I'm a fucking child.
Well, that's why we love you, Fleshy. Yes, BB, it's a kind of projection, correct. There's more to it than that, but once you start thinking in that direction, if you let yourself go with that, you've got to realize, I did a video last year. It's called, I don't know, the original title, like, is your third eye broken, or are you just expecting too much? I want you to think about the world if you couldn't see, hear, taste, touch, or smell. What is the world like if you have no senses? What is the world like if you have no physical senses? What exists then? It's still there. Whatever it is, it's still there, but you don't see it. But yet it's still there. You can still know it exists even.
I just imagine it like a big soup.
Sure.
Or like an echo chamber. An echo chamber of darkness.
Sure, you're on the right track. I mean, that is still a materialistic perspective, but you're on the right track. What does silence really sound like? If you could hear actual dead-ass silence, I mean real silence, not the
tinnitus silence.
Not the tinnitus silence, but the actual legit silence, what does that sound like? What does blindness look like? What does it look like back here? What do you see? You know it's there, but you can't see it. This is loosely associated with the word gnosis, the real meaning of the word gnosis, the spiritual meaning of the word gnosis, not just knowledge, like academic knowledge, but spiritual gnosis. Gnosis being the immediate, present experience of divinity, of truth, of reality. The true nature of reality is invisible. It is non-sensory. Now, when I say it's non-sensory, people make the misunderstanding that there's nothing to sense. The reality is, this is where it gets a little hard in language to say. Imagine trying to read an entire book all at once. What does that look like? What does that sound like? What does your entire life from beginning to end look like if you saw it in a flash that short? What would it look like? For that matter, what would a movie look like? Take an entire movie and show it on the screen in an instant. What would that look like? It would just be a seizure-inducing flash. It wouldn't even, there would be nothing. You would see nothing. So how do you see the movie? You have to slow it down, spread it out, and see little pieces of it at a time.
Yeah, got to take it frame by frame.
You got to take it frame by frame. So the ultimate truth of reality is like that. It's more in that direction anyway. It's more in that direction. So when you're thinking about the astral, what you're asking for is really a dream. And your waking life isn't really any different from a dream. They're basically the same thing. The only difference between a dream, as you know it in the nighttime, and now is that the dream you're in right now feels more real than the one at night. You've got more faculties, you sense things differently, it makes more sense. But how do you know when you're sleeping that your dream doesn't make sense? It does. Have you ever had a dream where the most unreasonable shit is happening, and while it's happening you go, well, this makes total sense in the moment, and you run from that Sasquatch as if it's real? And then you wake up later and go, well, that was some old bullshit, there's no way that was real. How do you know when the Sasquatch is chasing you that you're not thinking this world isn't real? But there's another layer to that understanding, and this is where it gets even bigger. There is no separation. When you go to sleep at night, that Sasquatch isn't a separate entity from you. You're controlling it the whole time. You're manifesting it there. You don't feel like you are, but you're doing it the whole time. The whole time that Sasquatch is chasing you and you don't know what's going to happen, that's you doing that.
And that's also you as the ground that you are running on and the air that you are passing around, and
all of that is you. You're doing all of that. You are all of that. They're all figments of your imagination, your subconscious, your mind, whatever science and language you want to throw on it. It's all a manifestation from you. Well, the same thing's true right now. As I whine it out to you, it's true right now. It's true right now. Just because it has rationality to it and causality to it and things that seem real about it, the experiences you're having are no different than what happens when you dream. There's not any difference at all. So when you say, I've never done the astral before, have you ever imagined anything? If you've ever imagined anything, whether you've seen it, heard it, felt it, smelt it, whatever, because everybody imagines differently, not everybody sees with their mind's eye. I have a little trouble seeing with my mind's eye. It's mostly, I know it's there. I can't visualize very well, we'll say. But if you've ever imagined something, guess what? You just played with the astral for a little bit. So what you're really talking about when you say, I haven't done the astral before, what you're really telling me is that you've never gotten lost in a daydream to the level where you felt it was real. And most people would agree with you. Most people know it. Most people have not done that. I don't even know if I can say that I've done that. I've always known when I'm daydreaming. I've always known.
Would you feel it fair to say that, you know, it's a matter of people's perspectives and definition of, like, you know, if I was to compare astral projection to basketball, it's like, oh, I've never played basketball. What are you talking about? I saw you on the court last week. Yeah, but I've never slam dunked, so I've never played basketball. Like, well,
to a point, but there is absolutely a point where there are people, especially like on YouTube and stuff, you know, there's these, it's a cult-like mentality. And I'll tell you how that cult works. It's really obvious to me because I grew up fucking around with cults like an idiot. Cults work like this. All you need is someone who's charismatic to tell you that it's possible and to tell you that they do it all the time and to give you some evidence that you can latch on to. And then it becomes a cult, because what happens is then you'll get somebody else who goes, oh, I can do that too. And if that cult leader wants to elevate them a little bit, they'll say, oh yeah, I saw you astral projecting too. Ah, so now you got two people who can do it. Well, it must be possible now. It's actually a cool kids club to be able to do it. So everybody suddenly starts acting like they can do it. And when there's no way to disprove it or prove it, you can run amok with it forever.
and then it becomes a religion.
Then it becomes basically like a religion. But I want to make sure that like I said before, I got to preface it with, I'm not saying the concept itself is completely bonkers. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that with most of these things that we talk about on these streams, they are put to a level in pop culture or spiritual expectation, especially in the New Age movement, holy shit, where they become this superstitious garbage that is actually an ego trap. The people who've had the most profound experiences of mystical nature often will, when you talk about things like what they call siddhi in Sanskrit, the 9 powers that are supposedly possible, they always diminish them, talk about them as if that they are extremely overrated, or they're just cul-de-sacs that you can get trapped in. They don't tell you that they're not possible. But they will always tell you that to chase those things just deepens the delusion even more. And I'm not saying I've done the most exhaustive search, but I'm 45 years old. And I've been screwing around with occult, magical stuff, and been a skeptic too. I've been on both extremes, very, 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 very actively, very, like a true believer of both extremes, okay? And I have never, ever, ever been able to justify the superstitious extremes. But you know what? I've never been able to justify the hard skepticism either, because there's always an ego trap there too. Not that the truth is somewhere in the middle, it is that the truth transcends both of those extremes. Astral travel exists, but it is not what the superstitious claim it is. Therefore, it's also not what the skeptics want to debunk. When people say that astral travel or out-of-body experience is this ability to go and fly up into space and see the planets and go to Paris and walk around in the streets and know what's in my cabinets, they will never ever be able to prove it. And then they'll always have an excuse. Oh, well, the gods don't let us prove it. Oh, what happened? You burn yourself down?
It's okay. Hold on. I'll be right back.
Okay. Fire! Oh, I see the Mr. Spooky behind you. Very cool. That's me astral traveling to Flesh Priest, by the way. So the thing that's trying to be debunked was never what was really supposed to be claimed. It's like telekinesis. When someone says, "Can you do telekinesis?" I'm going to say no. Not because I haven't been able to do things that seem like telekinesis at the time. But what is telekinesis? Can we define it? Moving stuff with your mind. Well, I just did that just now. I'm moving that with my mind. Well, no, I mean without touching it. Oh, without touching it. Well, did you know I'm not actually touching this right now, by the way? In actual scientific fact, I am not touching this. These are energy fields that are resisting one another, and there's actually no physicality to the touch. There's not even a structural connection going on. It is literally force fields that are repelling one another right now. So no, I am still doing exactly what you want. That is telekinesis, isn't it? Well, no, because that's still a physical thing. Oh, so you're saying it has to be a non-physical thing. How can a non-physical thing do something physical? Gar, I love you, brother. That was a good one. All you telekinetics out there, raise my hand. I love that. I got to remember that one. That's a really good one. Holy shit. I don't know where you got that one from, but oh, man.
If you believe in telekinesis, raise my hand.
Yeah, I love that.
That's a good
that was
one.
Fucking great. That is fucking great. I want that as a tattoo. I'm going to get that as a tattoo. I'm one of those people that gets like word tattoos like an asshole. Like maybe it's from my gangsta upbringing. I always want like, but I don't put it in the old English font that most people tend to use when they get tattoos.
All of you are lying. There's nobody behind me.
Yeah, that's actually just me astral projecting in my other form.
Mm-hmm.
You're just seeing that.
Yeah. Quit lying. So, actually, you had mentioned when you were younger. I actually have a question here from Gogo about that time as well, that I was trying to find a segue into before my computer decided to freak out on me and continue to. I might have to reset in the middle of the stream.
That's okay.
Gogo asks, I have a maybe personal question for Thorne. He says one time he was a Christian before. Mm-hmm. What did your parents tell you when you left the Christian faith? I don't think, well, I don't know if you want to talk about it, but does the one parent know that you for sure aren't?
I see no reason to expose myself to people who won't understand. As much as I will walk around in public very obviously different, I occult a lot of what I really think. Even in broad daylight public, you know, even from you guys. D.H. Thorne will always be a character. A sincere character, but a character. But yes, no, I do dress this way when I go to pick up pizza. I will dress like this. You can ask my wife. We have pictures. It's not, I don't make some of this up, for sure. But my music seems a little loud. I don't know if anybody's going to call me on that. Let me turn this down a little bit. But to be more specific to your question, without getting too personal, my mother knows that I am not technically a Christian anymore. She doesn't know about this. Probably for the best. I don't think she would understand it. She understands my interest in Zen, my interest in non-duality. And in her mind, I am not saved anymore, perhaps, in the same way that she is. But she believes that, well, she was the one who infected my brain with the saying, seek and ye shall find. Test the spirits, seek and ye shall find. And when I tested them and when I sought, this is what I found. Instead of just believing on faith, I tested and I checked and I asked questions and I doubted. You know, there's an interesting thing. Terence McKenna pointed this out in one of his lectures. He points out that it was Thomas the Doubter, of all the people in the Bible, who was permitted to touch the corporeal hands of Jesus after he resurrected, because he was the one who doubted. It is doubt that leads to the mystical revelation, not faith. Faith is a dead end. Blind faith is an even deader dead end. If you are not a skeptic, if you work this field, this current, and you are not a skeptic, I don't mean to insult you, but you're doing it wrong. You are not going to have a legitimate, I'm not saying you'll never have mystical experiences, but what you have is going to be a shallow, faith-based version. You'll still have wow moments. You'll still have just mind-blowing awakenings. There's no question. But someone who is skeptical, who has their doubts met with an experience that cannot be denied. It's kind of like someone who's eating ice cream and then puts out a cigarette on their tongue or something. It's such a flip from one to the other. It's so much more profound. You know, it's like fire and ice. They're so, when you have that extreme a shift. And I was lucky in that way. I said to somebody, as I was talking to them today, that a common misunderstanding that someone who doesn't know me would have is that I went looking for all of this. When this happened to me, I was like well into my skeptical phase, and I was just listening to Alan Watts for fun. It wasn't because I was seeking enlightenment. I didn't even know what the fuck that was. I didn't know what non-duality meant. I had no idea that I was sort of a non-dualist my whole life. I had no idea what that meant. My wife laughed today because there's this old joke. Fleshy, you've probably heard it. What did the Buddhist say when he went to the pizza shop? Do you know the punchline?
I do, but I'm going to let you tell it.
So he goes to the pizza shop and he orders a pizza and he says, make me one with everything. And for the life of me growing up, I laughed at that joke because I knew it was supposed to be funny, but I didn't know why. I didn't know why.
Have you seen the clip of the guy who tried to tell that joke to the Dalai Lama?
Oh no, I feel like I need to see this though.
Yeah, it was extremely uncomfortable because he, in English, told the joke to the Dalai Lama through a translator. And the Dalai Lama sat there waiting for the punchline and just left the guy hanging because it just it get lost in translation.
Probably, but even, no, it could be, yeah, that could be exactly why. Maybe for the same reason I didn't get it. It just never occurred to me that that's what the belief was in Buddhism. I didn't get that. I heard New Age people saying, we're all one. Like, yeah, sure, I know we're all one. What does that mean, though? Shut up. You know, it never really clicked. It never clicked. Even though I could recite, I could tell you, I didn't know what it meant. Then, without warning, without asking for it, boom, I had what... This is why I said before, you can have very vivid experiences. I'm going to correct myself. I'm going to counter myself when I said I didn't have it. I did have a very vivid experience. I knew it was what it was. I'm not saying that I didn't know what was going on, but I did have a very vivid, almost out-of-body astral experience when I had my first mystical moment. And I wasn't looking for it. I didn't know like that would happen. It wasn't like, well, you know, if you do this meditation, you're going to like go out of your body and see yourself as the world and all this shit. No, I just, while listening to Ella Watson watering a bush at work, I just went, holy shit, I'm everything. He didn't even say that. It wasn't even what he was talking about. It was something about the trees and the air in your lungs and how you are, the environment and you are connected in a deep level. And I'm like, just something clicked and it was just like, oh shit. And I didn't mean for it to happen. Yes, granted, I was doing what I call no mind meditation, which is where my mind wasn't actively thinking about it. I think I was just letting the words flow through me. I was having mindfulness meditation, I guess you'd call it. I had no idea what I was doing.
I'm sorry, and I don't mean to make jokes about your experience, but I just want to point out that you're actually, like, your story weaponizes the opposition, because in your own words, Alan Watts was a gateway drug to still being goth in your 40s and talking about non-duality and all this devil shit.
I mean, I know that my uncle, I said this to my wife, or she overheard me talking about it today, she was giggling. My uncle, when I was a teenager, probably about 14 or so, and I was really into martial arts, especially ninjas, and I was going, I mean, watch Cobra Kai, like that was my life when I was a kid. I just was so into my school, and I was there all the time. And I was, I don't know about a prodigy, but I was definitely talented. I was doing well, even especially for a big guy. Man, I was into it. And I ate, slept, and drank the subject. So that meant everything about martial arts, the culture, the especially Japanese culture and Chinese culture. I was so into that shit, which meant that I had to get into the mystical side a little bit. And so I'd practice what I understood as meditation. And my uncle heard about this, and he's a hardcore born-again type, like hardcore. Very, 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 very conservative. And he hears about that I'm doing this. And one of the first things he says to me when he hears about this, says, you shouldn't do that. Well, why? Well, meditation is about emptying your mind of all thoughts. And you know what happens when you do that, don't you?
The devil comes in.
Literally, that's what he said, was that's when the devil whispers to you. And because your mind, you should be filling your mind with God all the time. That way there's no room for the devil. And
there's no room for thought.
Right. And how do you respond, especially when you're a 13-year-old or so? How do you respond to that? Even now, if I was confronted with that,
you just say, is that liquor on your breath?
I mean, I'm sure that I could, you know, be that guy and do what I do here and rant and rave, but it would have no effect. Mm-hmm. That's a person who is in blind faith mode. They will never, ever, ever, ever. See, I've seen his truth. I sat with that truth for most of my young life on some level. I'm not saying I accepted it all, but that was my world younger. I was a happy Christian. I don't have the experiences a lot of people have where they have a reason to hate the church, if you know what I mean. I didn't have a lot of it. There wasn't people touching me inappropriately. There was no abuse. My uncle was that one person in my life that my mom wasn't like that. Even my dad wasn't like that. My dad was very much into church. We went to church every Sunday at a born-again church. You know, the slaying in the spirit type of shit. And there was no hate there. I didn't hate it. I loved it. There's parts of me that would still enjoy it, except I know the lies now. So I don't love it as much. But there's an energy there that if you can tap into, it's very potent. It's very good, especially as a little energy vampire sitting in the middle of the church going, yeah, this is good shit. So I never had those negative experiences. I never had a reason to rebel. Instead, I would talk to God all the time, or what I thought was God. And eventually, after much back and forth, I realized that the reason why that voice is inside me is the same reason it's always inside you too. Because it is you. There's no separation. You are God. And I don't mean Yahweh specifically. That's the demiurge, if anything. I'm talking about the real you. The you behind all this mask of bullshit that you call the self. The real you. That is God. And you can't describe that. You can't name it. You can't put it into boxes. Any God that you put into a box is not God. Anything that you can name is not God. This is why the deeper esoteric Jewish mysticism and Christian mysticism, all these things, they all say the same thing. You can't name God. It's not that it's wrong to name, like it's wrong to know his name, like as if he's got a secret name that you can never know. It's unspeakable. God has no name. You don't actually have a name either, because you're that. Tat Vamasi in the Sanskrit. You that thou art. You are that. So there's no mystery. That's the irony. The mystery is actually created by you. Yeah. Yeah. We'd have to go into like more Gnostic territory to really, and I want to get to more questions. Maybe I'll get into the Gnostic conversation later, but yeah.
Ooh, somebody throw some Gnostic questions our way, because I certainly don't know enough about it to really start questioning you on it. Mm-hmm. I mean, I know out of the early Christian cults and sects, they seemed like one of the groovier ones, but that's also not saying very much for that time period.
Yeah, we'll have to get into like put that on the ink blot on the ink blotter for maybe like the second hour or something. We'll talk about that.
Okay.
It's an interesting conversation. I am not like an expert, nor am I a Gnostic. However, I have begun incorporating Gnostic understanding into my practices a lot more because it is an excellent overlay system. It's so non-duality by itself is just a metaphysical philosophy. If you attach Hinduism on top of it, you know, like the pantheon of Hindu gods, then you've got something that's more like a practice that you can that's theurgistic, that you can work with different spirits and stuff. Well, Gnosticism is just another overlay. It's just another way to do it that works really well for Westerners, in my opinion. But we'll talk about that in a little bit.
Okay. Well, the next question I have lined up here is from, well, more of a comment, but Wyatt Coverdale says,
"Oh, damn it.
Wait a minute. Physics. Physical doesn't mean specifically material. It just means anything which can be applied to physics. Some things in magic can still do that. So we've been using the wrong terminology."
Mm-hmm. Well, maybe not. I don't really care. I don't like doing semantics too much, even though I'm pretty well known for apparently talking semantics, but it's not the same. I have meanings for words that I think are useful to adopt, in my opinion. That's all. But what we call physical is an illusion, and that is not even a mystery in science. Science has not even that recently, I should say, come to the conclusion that physicality is holographic. So when we say the holographic universe, people get this idea that means it's in a computer. Well, maybe, probably not, but maybe. What that really means is that everything that you see that you think is physical and solid, it has structure, but there's nothing solid to it. There's nothing solid in any object that you've ever handled in your life. There are detections. Detections are not things, guys. Remember the thing that I said about the clap earlier, for those of you watching when we first started? That's a detection. That is not a clap. You have never known what a clap really is, so long as you think that all of that was the clap. None of that was the clap. They were detections of a clap which is totally unknowable. Jack Me Nimble, I'm going to jump on this quick one. He says, why was magic banned by the Christian faith? It actually wasn't. That's actually a bit of a myth. Even during the burning times, magic wasn't outlawed. Specifically, what they were after was devil dealing, devil worship, things that were heretical. You could still practice what we would recognize as magic as a Christian. Look at John Dee. Look at hedge witches and alchemists. So many of these things. You could work with demons, for fuck's sake, during the height of some of the burning times, but you had to do it in a certain way. You had to put them in a box and burn them and rebuke them. That is magic. Christianity is magic. Hello. I'm going to do the Christian shit. Hello. Amen. Hello. Christianity is magic.
Yeah, go to a Catholic mass and tell me that they're not just
tell me that's not a
doing
magic
mental
ritual.
Gymnastics to get around the idea that they're not doing magic.
Amen, brother. Let me get my hat on. Where's my Jesus hat? Jay Sauber, thank you so much for the $4.99, brother. I appreciate you, man. Hope you got my email back a little while ago. Hopefully that found you good. Go. We're gonna have to get into a whole religious discussion at some point because, yeah, we just have to.
So the next one I have lined up comes from Me Too. Do you believe a person can direct their consciousness into the collective consciousness and experience something through someone else's senses?
Okay, who asked that?
That's from Me Too.
And read it one more time, because I'm not getting Me Too'd on this stream live.
They said, do you believe a person can direct their consciousness into the collective consciousness and experience something through someone else's senses?
Okay, so first part of that we have to fix. You don't direct your consciousness into collective consciousness. Collective consciousness and consciousness are the same thing. Collective consciousness limits itself to your physical experiences in this given moment. You don't leave you and go into somebody else. Now, your question is a good one because that is one of the difficult ones. If we are all one, how come I don't know what Flesh Priest is doing right now? Well, here's the deal. And this is where it gets difficult because this is something that if you dwell in a materialistic, egoistic space, you believe in the primacy of experience through your physical body. That means you believe that that is real. That means that in order to believe that you are connected to everything, you've got to also share in the physical experience of everything at once. Now, I've had a very vivid, like I said, I'm not going to go through the whole thing right now, but when I talked about that bush experience where I had a leaving my body experience, part of that was a feeling as if I saw the world from multiple perspectives, not just the one. It was like I was zooming out, like third person, but I was also seeing myself from all these different perspectives at once. And I couldn't bring that with me when I came back. I just remember knowing that that's what it felt like. So that gives you a clue. Can you, while you are here in this moment, know what it's like to see through somebody else's eyes? Well, first of all, it's not somebody else. That is you. That's number one. But could you relate to their experience in such a way that you could experience it as yourself? And if you could, would you remember it? And why not? Or why? So, to untangle your question, I know I'm getting a little confusing here. Part of ego is something that's attached to memory. Ego is a habit that attaches to memory and says, I am that which I remember. Well, where is memory stored? Where are your memories? Are they in someone else's head or your head? If I am, why don't I have Flesh Priest's memories in my head? Well, obviously, my brain only contains D.H. Thorne's memories. It doesn't contain Flesh Priest's memories.
Yeah, man, you're just looking at one little flash drive. You just gotta, jump up a couple folders and move over into mine.
And if I did that, would I be bringing my mind folders over to yours? No. Absolutely
not. I've seen your downloads folder.
Right?
You're not touching.
It's pretty dirty, dude. It's pretty dirty.
Wyatt says, so basically Thorne committed Mandelbrot Zoom.
Yeah, basically, yeah. So, all right. Let me go back. Let me circle back around. So the question is sort of, the reason why it's a difficult question is because it's based on certain presumptions of what reality is. You have this idea that your memory is you. You have this idea that memory proves existence. But it's actually the other way around. Memory does not prove existence at all. Memory is something experienced by existence.
And you can't even trust those memories.
Yeah. The memory that you're talking about is what is echoing in the meat in here. And that's just pretending time is real, by the way. So, for those of you who, when you ask me that question, and I'm sort of butchering this because I'm sort of trying to explain it from 10 different perspectives at once. When you say to me, for example, can I go into the collective conscious and experience somebody else's life? My question to you is, do you remember exactly what you did yesterday at this exact time? Like literally to the second, do you remember what your thoughts were? No, probably not. I'm going to say, and if you do, let's go even just one more day before. Can you do it then? Probably not. I'm going to say with lotto odds, you're going to say no. Like I have more chance of winning the lotto than I have for you actually remembering vividly what you were doing at this exact moment yesterday. Do you have any doubt that you were there? No, of course not. You may not remember the exact experience of that, but you don't have a doubt of being there. I for one have no fucking clue what I was doing at this time yesterday exactly. I have no clue. Maybe I was taking a shit, maybe I was writing something. I have no clue. I was probably playing PlanetSide. I've been playing that too much lately.
Time is bullshit, so how am I expected to remember what did not actually happen?
Yeah. Like that's a good way to put it, yeah. Oh, Cherry Abel is here with another VOY FYI.
Yeah, they really want us to know.
They really want us to know what they look like naked, probably. So if you don't even know exactly what it's like to be you 24 hours ago to the minute, what makes you think that you need to be able to know what it's like to be me to know that you're me? That's not actually the litmus test for knowing that you're me, believe it or not. It is if you're a materialist, yes. But it's not in the non-dual sense, it's not. Now, the collective conscious, the way that works is the experiences of everybody feed into it. Yes, by the time it gets to your specific incarnation, it is really muted. By the time it gets to you, it's just part of the static of your life. But in the aggregate, all of that does influence you. This is why Jungian archetypes and the work of Joseph Campbell and people like that are so important, because we see reoccurring in humanity, no matter where they are. If you were to take a collection of people, I guess, blank their minds or just deposit them on an island, rob them of all their cultural memories, for example, or just put them on an island isolated, fast forward the clock 1,000 years. You will see a weird-ass alien culture, no question about it. However, there will be archetypes that are exactly the same as they've always been in every human culture.
Mm-hmm. You may not understand why the fuck they're all digging up blue rocks and shoving them in people's casket, but there is a death ritual.
Right. Maybe it's black rocks for some other person. Maybe it's golden rocks, maybe whatever. But yes, why does almost every human species, person, anywhere throughout history, time, and space, why do the warriors always get buried with their weapons? Why?
It's because they need to fight the skeletons.
You need to fight their skeleton has to fight their way out of their meat.
Yeah, He-Man.
So people want the experience of omniscience. And I said this so many times, and I will say it over and over and over again. You have the experience of omniscience every night when you go into your deepest sleep. When you have no memory of everything, that is when you're omniscient. The reason I know that that's omniscience is because what would it be like to see everything all at once as it is, perfectly? It would look like nothing that you could ever relate to. And so therefore it wouldn't fit as a memory in your brain. You would have a blank spot. Even just the collective conscious, when I say see, that's another thing, is the word conscious. When Jung was talking about the collective conscious, he was sort of talking about group memory and egoistic habit, the soul of humanity, if you will, as a collective. He wasn't talking about consciousness. Consciousness by itself is the monad. It is the non-dual Brahman. It is the Atman Brahman together as one. Consciousness. So from the Vedic or non-dual perspective, Brahman, which is equivalent roughly to the word chaos or void or the abyss, those words are all very similar. They all mean roughly the same thing, just a little different, but they're interchangeable on a, like if you were to go back and you were to compare, they'd probably agree that those words were probably talking about the same thing. The Tao is another word for it. The Brahman is said to have 3 characteristics. Number 1, it exists, for sure, because you exist. You know you exist. 2, it is conscious. There's no question that the entirety of Brahman is consciousness and conscious. And 3, it is blissful. They know this because when they separated, when they reduced, I shouldn't say separated, when they used retroductive logic and they withdrew from their embodied feelings and went deeper into themselves, when they withdrew, they found absolute stillness and silence, yet they were still there. And when they realized they were still there, they analyzed what was still there. Well, it was only those 3 things, but they're really one thing because they're inseparable. They're atomistic, if you will. They are the ultimate primordial atom is consciousness, or should I say the ultimate primordial atom is conscious. 2 words are interchangeable. You could say it's all consciousness, or all of it is conscious. There's no difference. They're equivalent statements. You'll hear them used differently by different people, but they're really interchangeable.
I feel like it's not so much that the words mean different things, is that the way people use them all point to the core commonality.
I mean, the flavor, there is flavor to words. There's, like moist or wet, they mean roughly the same thing, but if you say my ass crack is moist versus wet, we all know that there's a difference there. If you say hot versus sultry or boiling versus, 120 degrees, or, there's equivalence, but there's slight difference in tone and timbre.
No, I agree. There's nuance to every word, and there's difference in definition, but the way that, especially in the occult, I feel, even though some of the words we use have different definitions, prescriptively, the way that people use them is basically the same.
Maybe the better way to say it is that they're pointing to the same truth, but it's the elephant and the wise men analogy. So there's an elephant, they're all beholding the elephant, they're all describing it differently, and they're all right. But they're all describing something different about the truth. And only when taken together the right way does the truth emerge. And if you haven't heard that parable, it's a really good one.
Or you got people going with the moisture there.
Yeah, moist. Moist is it's just, I think it was voted the most icky word in the English language. Yeah. I'm going to make a new book called Moistonomicon, and it's going to be devoted to the slug people of Beta 6. So. Would the subconscious be a twin interacting with the consciousness as another you in dreaming? This would be... Ego likes to divide itself because that validates the one that it thinks it is. So it likes to separate itself into conscious, subconscious, blah, 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 blah. Ignorance, primordial ignorance is what manifests the whole world. Without primordial ignorance, you would know everything. That part of that primordial ignorance causes the delusion of separation between self and subconscious. It's really all the same thing. It is really just a question of known versus unknown that you're talking about. There is no separation between subconscious. It's not a twin, none of that. It is you. You're just not aware of it right now. That's all. You're ignoring it. You know what? I'll give you a good example of what the subconscious is. Let's go back to the clapping. Everyone get your hands out. Get your hands out, everybody. Let me know when you're ready.
Hold on.
What is Fleshy gonna... He's gonna make this funny. Oh shit, yeah. What's the sound of 4 hands clapping? There we go. Okay, so get your hands out, ready? Okay. Clap with me now, everybody clap. Are you done? You're done clapping? What did your feet feel like when you did that? Most likely, you weren't paying attention to your feet, so you were busy focusing on the clapping hands, weren't you? Were your feet not there? Were they separate from you in that moment? No, of course not. You just weren't paying attention in that moment. You were focusing on your hands clapping.
So, do you want to rapid fire some of these?
Ooh, give me the meme of usually they put Trump's face on it, but it's Rambo with like shooting like the machine gun. Give me that meme. Yeah, rapid fire some of this at me. Give me the rapid fire.
Okay. I feel like we're thinking of 2 different things. I was thinking I'd ask one and put like a 10-minute time limit on it or something like that.
Ooh, I don't know if I could do this.
I feel like what you thought I was saying is I would just say all of them at once.
All right. Well,
and then your experience picks out which ones you want to talk about.
The irony is, no matter what the question is, it's always going to come back to non-duality and the illusion of reality. So go for it. Just go for it. Whatever the question is, I'll somehow work it in. What's your favorite color ice cream? Well,
you know, it makes no difference. In the
they're all
end.
chocolate.
Okay, well, let's see you do it with this one then. Greg de Damon 420 asks, Thorne, do you think you could escape the back rooms?
You're always in the back rooms, dude. You are the back rooms. Next.
CM, you got him.
How'd he get me? Or he predicted the answer.
He predicted the answer. He answered as you a while back when that was asked. And good man, CM. Pretty damn close.
Pretty close, right? Yeah.
Got a few from Wyatt Coverdale here. He says, I've learned not to expect others to understand what you know, and that it's pointless to share your philosophy. It's simply too advanced for them. Or so, at least I've seen.
So, Wyatt is very advanced, but he's also very egoistic. And he's very young. When I say egoistic, I don't mean that as an insult, because we all know that I'm a little egoistic too. But Wyatt, you assume a lot about what the point of things are. If you think that the reason that I do this is because I'm trying to educate people and make them better, I do this for fun. This is fun for me. I'm having fun right now. It has nothing to do with enlightening my community. I could give a shit if all of you guys wake up. I really don't care. I really enjoy, because when you guys give me these questions, it gives me a chance to think about things that maybe I've already thought about a lot, and it lets me remind myself what I've already understood, or maybe it's something I've never thought of before and I really got to think about it to answer it. That's why I'm doing it. And if you guys get something out of it, awesome. The point isn't in waking other people up or trying to get them to see it. The part of you that wants them to change is your ego. That's why you're suffering it. You may say, I'm not suffering. Yes, you are. I watched your stuff. I've listened to what you say. You do suffer it. You suffer it very, 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 very poignantly. Because I've suffered it. I've gone through that. I still go through it sometimes, especially when we're talking about politics and shit. I want to strangle the world and make you see. And then I go, ah, fuck. What's the fucking point? And it's in that moment where I go, there's no fucking point. That's when the enlightenment happens. That's when you go, so I'm really doing it all for me then? Yeah? Okay, then I'm just going to keep doing it, but I'm going to have fun now instead. Instead of making it about changing people, make it about changing yourself or experiencing yourself fully, and then just do it. Wyatt, if it's not fun, then stop.
If I can offer in a completely different view of this too, is that there's a, I'm not disagreeing with any, I'm not disagreeing with, you know what? Come get, bitch.
Oh, let me get the bigger one. Hold on. What do you want? Something straight? Double-edged? What do you want?
You're asking the bi man if he wants it straight? I mean, sure, but you got to give the other half sideways too.
So you're talking curve? You want curve?
You
want length or girth?
Here's
a little bit of both.
You know what? I'm not gonna answer that.
I mean, I got crooked. You want crooked? We'll do crooked. How about this? Is this better? That's nice and crooked.
Ooh, I do actually like that. It's got a nice head to it.
All right, go ahead. Disagree? No, I'm kidding. Go ahead.
Yeah, no. So I agree with what you're saying, but also to tackle this from a different angle too, is that everybody thinks they're really good at communicating. Everybody thinks that when there's a misunderstanding, it's the other person that fucked up. You could not have explained it poorly. And the unfortunate truth of the matter is most of us are pretty fucking awful at communicating. And I'm not trying to fire shots at you or anything like that, merely suggesting, you know, maybe they were capable of receiving this and maybe it would have really been something to them, but the way their brain processes things is so different from yours that the route you need to take to understanding is not their same route. And the difficulty of communication means it's hard to see that.
Or you're wrong.
Oh, you're wrong.
Right? There's three options. You're right, they're wrong, you're wrong. All right, I'm being funny. No, and that's true, because I once had a dialogue where I talk about the chakras, what they do, and I tell you that people think that they communicate through their throat chakra, and they do, but what happens is, because we're embodied and we see ourselves in this physicality, we communicate through the solar plexus. The solar plexus, which is action, then it radiates through our physicality. So our physicality communicates for us. So our throat chakra's got to talk through. What's
that, Kenny?
Yeah, exactly. That's literally what's happening. That's literally what is happening. Just like magnify that into a spiritual sense. You may in your heart have a Gnostic truth that you know is true, but you can't get it. The meat puppet can't do it. It can be nearly impossible to communicate these. I don't use the word higher because that gives it like a stupid mentality, but yeah, these deeper, different, non-linguistic truths, we'll say. This is why the Gnostic church, if you want to call it a church, the Gnostic tradition, understood the truth as you couldn't communicate it, you had to experience it. You had to have gnosis of God, not dialogue alone. You couldn't just be told what God is. You had to find out for hard truth. You had to find out for yourself. And that is actually exactly what is taught in Hinduism, Tantra, and all those things. It's literally the same thing, just with a Christian shell on top of it. Yeah, go ahead, Fleshy.
I was about to say, I was following chat for a second and I heard a silence. Was that the end of that topic?
I mean, sort of. I'm sort of in between. I'm kind of doing the long, poignant pause thing tonight, so.
Okay.
I didn't necessarily have anything more to say. I was sort of sitting there letting that echo for a little bit, listening to the music to help me zone in, shall we say.
I am also listening to music, but Run the Jewels just came on, so I'm kind of in a different zone at the moment.
You're in a different. I'm in a very. You can tell by the music there's like some kind of violin-y thing going on. I'm in a very. I should be meditating somewhere in a grassy field right now.
Is it a nice violin, or is it like a? Oh fuck! How did
it's just strings? Is it
like
strings droning? Very slow droning.
Okay,
strings.
So it's like Hiram's violin. If you keep going, you might just find ass teach.
Yeah, maybe I might. That's kind of hot.
So let me see. Wyatt, we just asked yours. I've got a list of your questions, so I'm gonna bop back. I'm gonna bop over to the next person, then come back for some of yours. Murdered Son says, do you have any experiences to indulge on concerning the jester? What are some key factors to tapping into the trickster state? Fucking do chaos.
I'm not quite sure I understand the question a little bit, only because are you talking about the Fool card? Are you talking about which jester? Are you talking about just different tricksters in culture?
Yeah, Murdered Son, like, elaborate in the comments if you're still here and listening.
Like a little bit more specific, if you can.
Yeah. I feel like when they say concerning the jester, they're talking about the archetype.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
The trickster spirit.
So here's the thing.
Also, hi, Assyriel. You should be asleep.
Yeah, go to sleep, motherfucker.
But happy to have you here.
How about that? That's German, right? From the dude who got punched out. I mean, no comment. That's a side story. It has nothing to do with anything. All right. All right. If we're talking about the trickster from like the archetypal sense, let me not answer. Let me pivot a little bit. Let me answer the question by not answering it. Can one archetype be another archetype? And if so, why? And if not, why? The trickster is an interesting archetype because it's the greatest teacher out of all of them.
Yeah.
It is not a I will tell you the truth teacher. It is I will put you in a position where the truth is apparent only after you have been unable to whatever. Only after you've been tricked. Only after you've been fooled. It tricks you into wisdom. This is why Zagan of the Goetia, even though people think it's like all about alchemy and stuff, it's really a trickster spirit. And it's there to teach you to be wise through con artistry and trickster stuff. You basically realize how easy you are to fool by charlatans. When you realize that, you learn the art of charlatanry. You become wise.
I really feel like it is just what the trickster says to me a lot is that you see things from such a different perspective that you have illumination on the aspects of others in which they are blind, or at the very least not fully aware of. And that in a lot of ways, I feel like the trickster is just illuminating to others that which they refuse to see.
So they refined their question. They said Quicksilver-oriented, mercurial, or something of that nature. You just answered your own question. Why do I say that? Because can you be mercurial on purpose? If you're doing it on purpose, isn't that exactly the opposite of being mercurial? Think about it. Can you be random on purpose? Can you be...
Oh, hell no.
Can you be chaotic on purpose? Can you be any of those things on purpose? Absolutely fucking not. So the reason why the trickster being synonymous with Mercurialism is so important is because if you understand the nature of true will, you realize that true will feels like it has no choice in the matter. True will just acts. There is no choice. It will feel like it's on rails, like it was always meant to be. That's when your true will is being manifested. The trickster is always doing its true will, always. And I mean the archetypal trickster, not like a person who's just a con artist. I'm talking about the literal, highest archetypal truth of the trickster. When you say mercurial, you mean it does as thou will without any hesitation or denial or anything like that. So, how do you do that on purpose? You can't. It is literally impossible to be mercurial on purpose. The only thing you can do is let go and let mercurialness happen. So what it really means is getting out of your way. So if you want to embody the archetype of that kind of trickster, mercurial, you've got to get out of your own way. So the trickster in its mercurial way, you know why it fools everybody? Because everybody else is thinking in terms of linear logic, whereas the mercurial trickster just does as thou wilt all the time. And it's harder to predict something like that. Just like you can't predict a storm. Because a storm, I'll do what I want. That's what the storm says. I'll do what I want. And it tricks everybody in the process. It is literally true to itself all the time, and that is why we can't figure it out. It doesn't give a fuck what other people think about it. It does what it wants.
You just can't handle me. If you can't handle me at my turning into a mare and letting a 7-hoofed horse fuck me, then you don't deserve me at my Avengers Endgame.
I'm done. Wow, way to take a meme into like the nth level of fucking postmodern fucking Marvel humor. Well done, well done.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, so how does the trickster act like the judge or any other archetype, be it big or small? Because there's a lot more archetypes besides just the ones that Jung talked about, by the way. He said so himself, but they were the main ones that he identified. One could argue that there's more or less even, but he argued that those were the main ones, and he's probably right. He was a smart guy. Yeah. All right, that's my first second rapid fire question. Let's get another one in here.
Okay, I'm gonna go back to Wyatt's for a moment.
Oh, damn it.
He says, okay, I'll stop memeing now. Here's a question. Is it possible to surmise all of philosophy into one baseline and absolute perfect paragraph? I've been working on it, trying to come up with a flawless theory of everything, if such a thing can exist.
It's already been done. And you know why you don't see it? Because like we joked about me and Eddie in the last stream where I said, if I was going to give you a book that tells you the truth about everything, it would be blank. And then it would literally just say this page left intentionally blank was Eddie's addition to that statement. And he actually made the book. He made the book of absolute truth. And it's this page left intentionally blank. That's it. And because that is because that is the truth and you're not there yet, you don't get it. So you don't see why that's the truth, but it is. If we want to, so if you want to desimplify it a little bit and make it a paragraph, that's also been done. I gave it to you before when I said the nature of reality is, we'll use the word Brahman just because you can look it up a little bit better. It's more accepted as the word. It is Brahman and Atman as one, and Brahman exists, is conscious, and is blissful. Done. That's reality. In 2 sentences. Everything else that you can think of is an extrapolation of that truth. Everything from the snails crawling on the ground to the stars in the heavens to what it feels like to, well, we're not going to say that because you're a young kid. All of those things, everything else is a profound implication of that original divine truth. And that truth is not the truth itself. It is a way of pointing at the truth, because the truth itself cannot be spoken. You cannot speak, know, or identify the truth through any of these linguistic methods. They're all fingers pointing at it. That's why what Eddie and I came up with the blank, that was the blank book that says this page was intentionally left blank, is so, that means he gets it. That means there's a lot of people, if you get that joke, you get it. You don't need the rest of it.
That's the make me one with everything. You'll get it when you're older.
You'll get it when
type
you're
of bullshit.
Older. Yes, and but it's true. This is why Japanese Zen koans are so valuable, because barring the ones that require a cultural context to get, Zen koans, if you got it, you get them. You generally get them, especially if you get the cultural context. Some are more cultural than others. Some require some cultural knowledge. So, for example, I can't remember the exact wording, but it was something about, what was it? Let me see. I'll try to look. It was something so ridiculous that it had to do with the weight of Buddhist robes in linen or something like that. And he says, oh, about 3 pounds, but that wasn't the question. It was something like, let me see. Give me 1 second. I'll see if I can Google it real fast.
Yeah.
I don't want to get if I don't remember this, I'm going to sound like an idiot.
We have RPS saying, that is true, DH, but damn, those philosophers are verbose. And yes, I feel like philosophers are guilty of that a lot, because you want to get these ideas out there to people. Mm-hmm. And I feel like with what DH is saying, that would be the truth. A lengthy, verbose book so I'm going to try to explain this all to you. 700 pages, and the last one says, so to put it concisely, this page left intentionally blank.
That I might do that, Eddie. I might say thank you for that idea, and I might, in my next book, I might just be like, okay, and just to sum up the entire book, this page left intentionally blank. Well done, well done. So here's the koan. It's about Tozen, and Master Tozen, also spells Dongshan, was asked the question, what is Buddha? And Tozen replied, 3 pounds of flax. People were like, what the fuck? How does that mean anything? What the fuck does that mean? Well, if you understood the cultural reference, you'd realize that the weight of a Buddhist monk's robe in flax was about 3 pounds. So with that piece of information, now you can unlock the riddle and it makes more sense. What is Buddha? What is Buddha? Buddha is like a garment. Buddha is like, it is to ask what is Buddha means you're more interested in finding out what signifies a Buddha. What is an illusion of a Buddha? Because if you really knew the answer to that question, you'd know you already are the Buddha. So what makes you the Buddha more or less to other people is what you wear. It's your costume. You're always the Buddha in the Zen understanding. That's the part that makes it a Zen koan, that makes it even more confusing, because people will say, well, how does a robe make you the Buddha? Exactly. Get it now? So what is the Buddha?
That's
3
quite
pounds.
witty.
So what is Buddha? 3 pounds of flax is equivalent of saying a robe. How the fuck does a robe make you a Buddha? It doesn't. You're already the Buddha. So you're just looking for a garment. If you're asking someone, how do I become Buddha? You're not asking, how do you become Buddha? You're asking, how do I convince people I'm Buddha? Because you're egoistically attached to it. You don't get it yet. That's why that koan is so powerful, because once you understand the reference, and look, I don't know what other people say, but that's how I understand it. I'll bet you if you go ask them, they'll say something similar. A lot of people think that Zen koans have no answer. No, they absolutely do. I'm not saying there aren't some that have no answer, that the point is to question. The point is they give you a question that is unanswerable sometimes so that the answer emerges in an intuitive way. Another good one is this one monk held out a stick. I forget what he was asked, but he holds out a stick. And he says, if you can't call it a long staff or a short staff, what can you call it? And you can sit there for days trying to figure this out. Let's see if I can remember. Let's see if I can find it so I can actually say it right. Let me see.
I'm gonna steal that from you,
found
Eddie.
it.
I like that.
I found it. So it was Shuzen held out his short staff and said, "If you call this a short staff, you oppose its reality. If you do not call it a short staff, you ignore the fact. Now, what do you wish to call this?" So think that through. Roll that around your mouth for a little while. If you call this a short staff, you oppose its reality. If you do not call this a short staff, you ignore the fact. What do you wish to call it?
Danger stick.
So that question, when asked of people, you know what it's like? It's like when a monkey puts its hand into a jar to grab a peach and can't get its hand out. That's what a good koan does to you. You could always smash the jug, by the way.
I mean, that's what I was attempting to do right there. I feel like you could get some really good one of these by just approaching the guy walking down the street talking on his Bluetooth and asking him some questions and getting some really off-the-wall answers, then realizing he doesn't have a Bluetooth on him.
LVX 777777777. Beautiful light. Light 777 LVX. They retracted their message though, so it's probably something shitty.
Don't do that. Or maybe you're just fixing the comments, so we'll see.
I'm teasing. I see a lot of people do that, but sometimes I gotta pick on them because it's fun. Hecka did it too. I didn't pick on him.
There's a quote attributed to the Buddha from Lola Asain, says, "Once again, I like the idea of your ideas more than your actual ideas."
Yeah, that's beautifully said because, yes, because that tells you all about where reality is for you. It's always in your own mind. It's always in your own experience. So I could give you, so that really speaks to the true guru, which is not me. If you think I'm a guru, you're an idiot. The real guru is in you. If you think I sound wise, it's because some part of you is the wisdom that resonates with what I'm saying, and you just see it in me and go, wow, that guy's really smart because he thinks like me. Or I didn't think of that before and I just learned something. Well, you can only learn it if you accept it, and you only accept it if you think it's true, and you only think it's true because... Why? Because you already believe it. It's already in you. It's already there. If anything, I just wiped away something that was in the way. And maybe someday you'll hear something that wipes away what you believe because of what I told you. And that too will be the truth.
So, I know you don't need an excuse to do it, but I want to throw something that I know that you can really chew on.
Uh-oh.
And this one is from your fellow non-dualist, Esarte Azeroth.
Uh-oh.
She asks,
we're gonna fight.
How did the illusion of duality begin? What went wrong? Can
nothing went
something
wrong.
go wrong?
Nothing went wrong. Nothing at all went wrong. That's the first thing. One of the reasons that we struggle with this question is because we think something went wrong. You have to let go of the idea that something went wrong. So that's step one. There's nothing wrong with... So part of the problem is our English word for delusion is a negative word. That's why they call it Maya in the other cultures. Because it's not a negative term. It just means magic. It means mirage. It means miracle. It means glamour. Delusion in English is a negative term. So when we say that your reality is delusional, we go, well, if it's delusional, I got to see reality, because Western minds are geared towards this idea that there is an objective truth of reality that is higher and more true than anything else, and we've got to find that because we are very objective focused in our minds. We are very problem-solving oriented. We are very much, we must force a thing to happen. We must fix it because it's broken. So that's one part of it. And I see you're saying, I don't think anything's wrong. Well, you said it. I don't know what you think by that, but I'm just saying, you said it. What went wrong, if anything? So for people listening, I'm answering the question in a general sense. I'm not specifically responding to you. People think that it's wrong when they don't. People think Maya or illusion is wrong. So what caused it? Well, nothing caused it. What manifested it? I'm not trying to be semantical, but it's important to differentiate the words, because when you say caused, it implies that you created or forced or somehow made the universe or any of that shit. That's not really what happened. So what manifested the dualistic illusion? The dualistic illusion was manifested by primordial ignorance. Astarte, stop. I'm not criticizing you, sweetie. I'm talking about literally what you said. Like, I'm just responding to the words you used, and I'm not saying that that's what you believe. You asked a question possibly because you just want to hear an answer to teach something. I'm not attacking you. Trust me.
I know how you meant it.
Yeah, I mean, I think I did too, but whatever. I harp on the wrong thing because a lot of people don't understand that. They think that it's wrong to not see it for what it is. But it's not wrong. You do see it. You've just mistaken what you see as for what it is. That's all. So what caused that? Well, primordial ignorance, what is called avidya or agnosis. Avidya in the Sanskrit, agnosis in the Greek, or primordial English, which is the closest translation I can give in our language. Primordial ignorance is when the non-dual divine literally started, it answered the question, can God create a rock that God can't move, and how? The answer to that riddle is primordial ignorance. So how does God create a rock that God can't move? If God is all-powerful, omniscient, omnipotent, and omnipresent, how does God create a rock that God can't move? Well, first and foremost, if it's omniscient, omnipresent, and omnipotent, it is everywhere, always, all the time, doing everything and knowledgeable about everything that is done. So all three of those things always mean the same thing. They're just three different ways of describing the same superpower. Because you can't have one without the other. You can't be omniscient without being omnipotent and omnipresent. You can't be omnipresent without being omnipotent and omniscient. You can't be omnipotent without, they're all literally the same thing, just described a different way. So if you're one, you're all of them. So how can an omniscient, omnipotent, and omnipresent God create a rock that God cannot move? If they could do so, then wouldn't that violate their powerfulness? If there's suddenly something that they can't move, doesn't that mean the rock is now more powerful than them in some way? How could God contradict himself is another way to ask the question. And you've got all kinds of answers throughout theology. Some of them are, God just can't do irrational things. God can't make a square circle, said, I believe it was the guy who wrote The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
C.S. Lewis?
C.S. Lewis, yeah, said C.S. Lewis. God cannot make square circles. Meaning God can't do the irrational. Okay, that's, to me, you've got a point, true, but that doesn't really satisfy the question, does it? On a deep level, you go, that's not satisfying. I still feel like that means God's not really omniscient or omnipotent or omnipresent. I still feel like that somehow, that implies a limit, because doesn't that mean that there's laws that are superior to God? Is that the rock that God can't move then? So then the laws are higher than God, right?
It feels a little bit like you asking God, and he's like, oh, I could do it. I could totally do it. But, I don't want to upset my wife.
Right? Another answer that was given is a little bit like what you just said, but in a different way. It was, well, God can do it, but he won't, because then he wouldn't be the most powerful. A lot of fucking cop-outs. You know what the answer is? God can do this very easily. He's already done it. You know how he does it? Or she, or it, whatever. I say he just like it's a non-binary intent there. You know how God does it? God either finds or creates within itself the rock. The rock exists, bang. The rock could be literally this. This could be the rock.
I thought you were going to bust out the green lighter.
Nope. Oh, you got one now too. Beautiful. So the rock could literally be this. This could be the rock that God can't move. So how does it? Oh, I'm moving it. Am I not God? How obviously that means that's not the rock God can't move. Then God also creates something inferior to the rock. Say a really tiny little tardigrade that's crawling around on this rock right now that has no hope in hell of ever moving this rock ever. And then God forgets that it is me and the rock and the tardigrade and pretends and thinks that it is only the tardigrade. In that moment, the rock is more powerful than God, but God is still the rock and it is still the tardigrade and still me. So it is still technically not inferior to the rock. So how does God satisfy the paradox? Because God is the rock, and God is the force that can't move the rock, and God is the force that can move the rock, and God is all of it.
God's fucking role-playing. He's like bent over like, ah, woo, you're so much stronger than me right now. I don't know what happened. I'm gonna forget that there's a safe word. Oh, woo.
Right. And in order for that to work, it can't just be, I'm pretending to forget. It must be a literal forgetting. God must forget that it is God in order for the rock to manifest. But in order for the paradox to be fulfilled, God has to be able to wake up and remember at some point that it is God so that it can once again have power over the rock when it needs it. And then again, be under the rock and be over the rock. So this is how you get that cycle of samsara.
Nina says, hey, if he can make my water into wine, let him stay.
So it's the answer to your question. What caused duality to manifest? That was it. Not literally the question, not somebody asked God, can you make a rock that you can't move? But the same question the same source that question has is what caused God, the divine, to forget itself. Yeah, exactly, Astarte. It's just a different way of saying exactly the same thing. In Kashmir Shaivism, God forgets he is God in order to play sport. Yes. I consider it a game of hide and go seek or a masquerade with one player. Play hide and go seek with yourself. This is why I like to call people seekers. And the real revelation is that you're the one hiding too. You wake up the moment you start. So if you're here, you're doing this right now. You're counting to 1,000,000 billion, and you're like, fuck, this is taking too long. And you're doing this. Where's God? Where's the one I'm seeking? Not realizing that those fingers are God. You are God the whole time. So the one hiding is the one seeking. The truth and the seeker are one, always.
So,
you mean Eddie brought up John Cena? That's John CC Pina. That's what we call him around here. But anyway.
Oh my God. I thought that maybe he got there from The Rock because you were talking about him enough. So I thought it was just wrestling themed for a little bit.
Oh, we're talking about The Rock. Yeah. Can God make The Rock that he cannot move? Well, I know there's some people.
I'd like him to fucking move him away from every fucking blockbuster. It's to the point where if I see The Rock in a movie, I just don't see it. Not that I really watch many anyways.
He's suddenly buying up a lot of stuff, man. Applebee's and wine companies or whatever. Like, it's like he's becoming like Ronco or something. Like he just, next thing you know, it's going to be like, instead of the George Foreman grill, it's going to be the Rock grill, You're
going to have some rock socks on.
Some rock socks, yeah.
So this one is from a cereal, and he says, Sadhguru, yes or no?
Why not both? I watch Sadhguru from time to time. Sadhguru is an interesting individual. I'm convinced that he murdered his wife and got away with it, but that's just me. I know it's going to be like a lot of, fuck
God
you, CJ. I love that. That was a good one.
Says DH made up non-duality, so we'll always have talking material every week.
Hey, damn right. In a matter of speaking, you're right, dude. I mean, that's what makes that a great comment. In a matter of speaking, you're exactly right. I mean, I don't want to really be harsh on the guy because I do watch his channel. I do. And maybe he didn't murder his wife. That's more of a snarky comment than anything. There are questions surrounding his wife's death. Yes, there are pictures of him hugging Klaus Schwab. Thank you, LVX777. He just recently, I think it was Travis Migas put out a video about him talking about the Illuminati, and I was just laughing the whole time because not only did he get it kind of wrong, but he made a lot of effort to say he's not in the Illuminati. Like, that sounds a little guilty there, homeboy. You notice I go, yeah, baby, all the time, you know. Yes, Wyatt, you're right. I meant allegedly. I don't mean that. Look, there's evidence that shows that he might have done it. I don't know if he really did or not, but there's a lot of evidence that calls things into question. His wife, I don't want to go too hard into this. His wife, according to what I read,
is this the Carol Baskins of the fucking spiritual world?
I don't know, maybe, but apparently his wife dies. He claims that it was part of a spiritual ascension thing that happened. She basically moved on. She left her body and her body died. And then when they wanted to do an autopsy, because in their culture, the husband has the right to determine all this stuff, he said no and had her burned right away so that the spirit wouldn't want to come back, because that's what happens in what they believe. So you got to burn the body so that the spirit doesn't come back. And so, man, he just like, there's a lot of questions. The father wanted an autopsy because he was suspicious. He wouldn't allow it. He said she moved on. Now, maybe she just got sick and died. Maybe she just died. Maybe he didn't murder her. Maybe. But man, is that shit sus, man. That is some fucking, I think.
I mean, I don't know the guy, but it sounds kind of like, oh yeah, she spiritually moved on. Like she ascended. Well, how'd that happen? Freebasing a lot of white stuff.
Freebasing. Now, I don't want to.
I forced upon her.
I did a video that's on BitChute that's coming out probably Saturday on YouTube, talking about setting the record straight about Luciferianism and stuff like that. I don't know about modern Masons. I can't speak to that. My great uncle, who was one of the richest people on the planet at the time, was a 33rd degree Mason. I know people who are Masons who will tell me stuff that they can tell me, like they're limited to what they can tell me. But they will tell me that no, the Masons and the quote unquote Illuminati, whatever we think that is, are actually more like the good guys in this, in a way. At least they were. I don't know about now. See, like there's still a big veil of mystery. I think most of it's just a culture club for men at this point. I think it's just turned into a business plan for today. I think the mystery school that it once was died maybe 100 years ago, and today it's literally just a way for rich guys to control the like industries that they're in. Probably. But I don't know. I'm not in it. Like I don't know. And if I was, I wouldn't tell you. So but once upon a time, I believe, like, say, the French Revolution and the Enlightenment era. So the Enlightenment era leads to the French Revolution and the American Revolution. The Enlightenment era spawned the Illuminati mystery schools, whatever that was. I don't know enough to be 100% certain, but I see the symbolism everywhere. And I see that there was at some point that was a Luciferian thing. So I believe personally that at least once upon a time, what we think of as the Illuminati or the Freemasons were deists, Gnostics, Rosicrucian type magicians, people like that of a Luciferian bent, meaning they were trying to enlighten humanity, manipulate society to elevate humanity, etc., etc., etc. That's what I believe personally. I think that got corrupted by the demiurge, which always happens. The demiurge always corrupts. So if Jesus actually existed, which I flip-flop all the time, whether I believe he existed or not, at the moment I'm starting to think he did again. I don't know. I sincerely don't know. But if Jesus existed, for example, I kind of prefer the Gnostic position on what Jesus was. If that is true, then what Jesus taught was then corrupted into an authoritarian system of shit. Literal shit in an orthodox religion. It was turned to absolute garbage that was used to manipulate humanity. But it probably started off as something pretty fucking cool. So if we apply that to what I'm talking about with the Luciferians, the Illuminati, the Freemasons, the Rosicrucians, all of that shit gets corrupted at some point. Quite honestly, we'll never know. I forget who just said it. The people who know, and they ain't gonna talk. And so I'm only speculating. But I personally believe that there was a sincere effort by people to set us free, personally. And that got corrupted. And then you have the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers and all them that serving the other side of that story. You have the Lightbringer and the Demiurge, and we as humans like to see them in conflict, but really they're both two hands of the same coin, two sides of the same coin. The one will tell you you're God, the other one will tell you it's God. It's all God, and you're it too. But anyway, I'm kind of broken recording.
So nobody is lying then.
Yeah,
they're all good people because they're all telling the truth.
Let's see, Eddie's talking. Eddie knows a lot about secret societies, so maybe I'll have him on so he can maybe set some records straight too.
We also have a question here from Stuart Henny. DH, do you know about the mark of... I want to pronounce it Cain, it's spelled Qayin. Do you know about the mark of Cain that Samael can offer? No, any info would be interesting.
Yeah, that sounds like a specific practice from somebody else's, you know, I mean, I've heard of it. You know, that sounds like, I don't want to poo-poo it, but I'm poo-pooing it soft. I'm doing a low-key poo-poo, not because there's anything wrong with it, by the way. That's not even remotely what I mean. It's too superstitious for me. I will examine stuff like that for the symbolism in it, and then I'll usually leave it where it is. I don't like, because it's for my taste, I mean, I have to become a true believer in something else, and I don't want to do that. You know, I don't believe that Cain was a literal person. I believe that the book of Genesis was a metaphor for something else, and it's a copy pasta of Sumerian myth that itself was something else.
Phil Collins' origin story.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. So, Eddie's talking about, he knows more about it. Ask Eddie. Eddie knows more about it than I would. I'm not into that, guys. I'm not a classically trained anything. I'm just an asshole with a YouTube channel that's had an enlightenment experience and gets certain things, but I don't know all this other stuff. That's stuff that I'm just not personally, I'm not personally into. So, hey, Eric Quetting, what's up, brother? People are asking about you. I'm like, I don't know. So Eric Quetting's here. If you have questions for how he's doing, ask him. He's right there. What's up, brother? Good to see you, man.
Yeah,
hope you're doing well.
Good to see you, man.
Give me a ring a ding dong if you need it.
And you know, speaking of Eddie, Asarte was just saying that we need to have him on some point. We have had him on the show, haven't we?
He's made appearances once in a while.
Yeah. I feel like we need to give him a good, proper episode sometime. Like, I want to have him on and talk to him just because, I mean, fuck, I like Eddie.
He should just do like just a lecture on secret societies sometime. He knows a lot more about that stuff than I do. You know who'd be good for that too? My friend Johan, who hasn't been on in a while. I would like to have him on again. I don't know how he's doing. I gotta call him soon.
I was just thinking about Johan today. I haven't seen him in a while.
He had a whole bunch of I don't know if he minds me telling too much or not, so I'll just be very, very simple with it. He's had some problems, like health problems that were pretty serious, but he's always doing a little better, and he's been, you know, he's sort of, I think, just trying to get well, but he is doing better. So I don't know.
Okay, good. That's the right thing to focus
on. I called him. I texted him or something around the new year, and he called me like right away, and I couldn't talk, so I didn't answer it. Hopefully, he doesn't mind. But you know, I think he's doing okay. He's a little older, so when older people, when you text them, they want to call you. Younger people like Gen X or younger, especially younger Gen X, we don't want to talk on the phone much, guys.
Don't ever fucking call me. Don't you ever fucking do that. I thought we were friends.
Right? Don't call unless you like text me to tell me you're going to call me, and I'm going to say no anyway. But at least text me first.
Yeah.
If you don't need to call, like boyfriend and girlfriend, call me. You know, like that's different. But otherwise, I don't
like if we're not putting our things inside of each other's things, and you call me, it better be life or death, or you need to know something right now. Otherwise, friendship over.
It is weird like that, because when I was younger, I was a phone whore. I was constantly, like this is back before speed dial and shit. And I'd sit there and I would put like loose leaf paper all over my wall, plastered with the phone numbers and names of everybody I knew. Maybe like 100 fucking numbers on there. And I was just like a teenage girl, just all day, blah, 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 blah. What did such and so say? Blah, 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 blah. Just all day on the phone. But that's because we didn't have all this boop, boop, boop shit. We didn't have our phones and our, our Discords and our, TikToks and whatnot. So yeah.
I don't get it. I grew up not having a lot of that shit anyways. Like I had a flip phone while everybody else was walking around with smartphones and shit like that. Like I didn't have an internet connection, any of that. I was running an old Pentium 2 fucking Frankenstein and shit like that. And I tried to do it, like dating a girl back in high school, and she wanted to talk on the phone all the time. Just, oh yeah, I can't really find anything to do right now. Okay, well I can, so bye.
Oof. So, I mean,
it gets old after the third hour, dude.
I mean, I guess. I know, I don't know. I grew up, and RPS says, lol, I see you grew up in the 90s, I see DH. Damn right, I'm 45 almost, bro. It's 2.5 months, I'm 45. Colt 45. That's what I'm calling my cult. In fact, honey, I need a cult for my birthday. Either a beer cult or the handgun cult. So be ready to one or the other. One or the other is going to happen. A long, smooth, cold Colt 45. Yeah. Anyway, I don't want to sound like one of them old dudes, but because I'm not quite like that yet. I'm not saying one's better or worse. I think that something's been lost in translation along the way, where it's like, can we still have the one but also have the other? Like, can we go like more towards like the noughties era, where like you still had a social life in person that was really healthy, but you used the computer for everything too, instead of most of your life revolves around cell phones and computers, and then your social life is more of like an add-on DLC. You know what I mean? I mean, you can disagree if you want, because I know everybody's got a different life, but it sure feels like, especially after 2020, like you have to install the fucking real life DLC if you want to see people in person anymore.
I mean, okay, so I'm going to say this as the 20-something, and everybody can just tell me about how fucking wrong I am.
You're wrong.
I feel like I understand what you're saying, and I'm not disagreeing with it, but I also feel like that's kind of just the story of turning 30 and continuing your life. It's just the internet also happens to be around for that.
True, because I think what happens, and I think you make a valid point, is when you're younger, you got tons of friends and you go out a lot. Then when you hit your 30s, that dries out.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I did, but I never had problems finding something to do on Saturday night when I was, and of course I didn't get laid very much, but no, just a joke. No, but I mean, it wasn't like I had trouble finding something to do especially in my early 20s. Like, forget it. I was never home. Once I started getting around my 30s, it started drying up. And then now it's like, I've got one friend I see in person like 3 times a year, and everything else is online. And it's really depressing because I guess that isolation, some of it's self-imposed for sure, but that self-isolation snowballs because you start to find it hard to relate to people in person, because you look around, you're like, yeah, nobody else wears black like I do anymore. Am I anachronistic now? Like, where's all the emo goth metalhead people? Oh, they have real jobs and shit. I got it. Yeah. So I don't relate to normal people anymore like I used to, and I just feel more like an alien all the time. I relate to a lot of you guys though. I'm sure that if we all like met up, we'd all get along pretty good, you know. So
Nah, not now. All the goths are like pastel and rainbow goths.
I've seen that. I've seen that. I don't like it, but you know, each their own. It's a style thing.
Aesthetically, I don't like it as much as like the traditional goth look, the old head goths. But you know, they're groovy people.
I mean, to be brutally honest, like my favorite goths are the goths that I was being goth around. It wasn't the early '80s goths. Like to me, that's like, I don't know, it just doesn't do it for me. I like the more emo vampire goth than the you know, my personal style is post-apocalyptic goth. Like that's my style. I like that look. So, but I don't do that very often because that's hard to pull off.
You're fucking what's his name? Oh shit! I just ruined my own joke. Okay, never mind.
You're gonna make fun of Gary Newman with the thing on his neck. Did I show you I got one of those?
I've become predictable.
I think, is this it? No, where is it? Is it over here? I got what he meant for it to be. I got what it should have been, but it didn't exist. I don't think I'll put it on because I have to take my glasses off to fuck my hair up. But it's like this weird little hoodie thing that is totally pointless, but I don't know, it looked cool in the pictures and it kind of looks cool when you put it on. But it's like this hoodie thing that comes up and like goes in front of your face a little bit, and it's
did you get that off Amazon?
I did. I really did.
I looked at that and I was thinking of picking it up too.
It's not horrible, dude. I do
know
recommend
the exact one.
Yeah, can you see it good now, especially with my hand in it? You see?
I mean, I see it because I know what you're talking about, but it doesn't come out clear for everybody else.
No, and but that's basically what he was trying to do. But he wore a fucking battle belt, a Mali battle belt as a fucking neck armor. It was like the stupidest. I love Gary Newman. His music is banging, and that song was awesome, and the video is awesome.
Yeah, that song is fucking cool. Just, you call me broken. Yeah, I knew I would always wear my waist around you.
He's fucking weird. That'd be like fucking Hulk Hogan coming out with his fucking title belt around his neck. Like that's
as as a chain. Who's the fucking guy that does that? Not G-Unit. Never mind. Fucking forget me.
Yeah, just forget
me. I can't reference anything tonight.
Shut up, you. So, oh man, I give up. I really give up. All right, let's move on to another topic or something. What time is it? How much more time am I going to be around it tonight? I might cut it a little bit short because, so two things, a little bit of logistical shit here. Number one, next week is going to be up to the last minute whether I stream or not, because my son is going into the service next week. So there may be some waterworks in the house. There may be, we might be doing some coping and stuff like that around here. We might be trying to just find ways to, I don't know if I want to do a stream. Maybe I will. Maybe it'll be fine. Maybe. So it's kind of 50-50 whether I'm going to stream next week. I will, at this point, still be conducting meditation class on Monday. So if you're interested in that, you can sign up on Patreon for that. It's $20 a month, which is very reasonable. And it's a fun class. It's guided meditation, visualization. We do psi balls, chi balls, all that kind of stuff. CM finally got his first class in, and it was really a pleasure to meet him on that. I know he's been wanting to talk to me for a long time. So we've got some cool people in there. Some of you guys are not here tonight, but some of you guys are here a lot. So it's a fun class, and it's recorded, so if you miss it, you can catch it. Sometimes it's a big info dump, sometimes it's very hands-on. We're going to be moving more towards doing meditation and hands-on exercise more than info dumps, because info dumps, I think I burn out and people burn out, and it can get a little overwhelming. So we're going to focus on mostly meditation of different sorts, all different sorts. Occasionally we'll be doing rituals, and occasionally there'll be info dumps. So if that helps you understand what it's like. And I think it's a good class. Everybody who's done it has really enjoyed it, and it's very vivid for them when I do it right. So anyway, that's just an option for you guys. Buy my crap, as we like to say in the business.
I know. So every time I've jumped in on those, I always had a good time. Learned some shit.
I'm a lot more serious during them too. Like this is more like the party stream, and those are way more. I'm way more like I am in my regular videos during those classes. So Ooh. Ooh.
You know what? I think CJ, you asked this question last week, and I wasn't able to get to it. Actually, before we address that super chat, I have a little bit of an apology to make to everybody who asked
We
questions.
can't smell your fart, dude. It's fine. Oh, what?
Because I think there was a miscommunication. I was trying to read off the synopsis of each question to you as like a, yeah, tell me more about that one, and I'd read off the question. I think you just took it as that and rolling with it. So I didn't actually get to ask very many people's questions there at the end.
Ooh, yeah.
So, yeah, apologies. So, CJ Anger says, if aliens exist with intelligence on par with ours, would they have a separate collective consciousness, or would they merge with our own?
So there's only one collective consciousness, period. There's only consciousness. Like, that's one thing. If I was gonna edit Jung, I think part of the problem we have in the West is terminology is an issue. If you look at, this is why I like using Sanskrit terms sometimes, or I like coining my own terms, because there's a lot of confusion that happens with these words. If we're talking in Sanskrit, it's a much easier conversation because there's words that mean some of these things that are just, they're not easily confused with one another. So when we say the word consciousness, the Western mind has a whole raft of things that it thinks consciousness is. But in classical metaphysics, consciousness is not these things. Consciousness is something that is a little bit harder to describe by itself because it requires subject object just to talk about things. And consciousness is literally the disobjectification of all of that. It is just pure being. It is pure being, aware being. It is that. Mitchell Griffin, you are banned from the chat. So when we're talking about collective consciousness, we're talking about, in the Jung sense, we are talking not about consciousness, the word as I use it in non-dual. We are talking about shared collective memory, shared collective influence, biological DNA and memory, if you wish. Whatever you want to call it, it is something that is relatable between all human beings that share a similar life. So there is a human collective conscious and an alien collective conscious in that context, if we use collective conscious that way. But one would argue that there is one conscious which transcends all of them. And there is, just like there is a collective conscious of Long Islanders and a collective consciousness of West Coastians like Fleshy over there, we actually relate to each other through a transcendent collective conscious that blends those two together in a way that we can communicate and understand. So there's every city's got its own collective conscious. Every household has its own collective conscious in that Jungian way. But humanity taken at large has a vast collective of consciousness, a vast experience, a shared experience. And that shared experience is a little different today than it was back then, but there are archetypal points which are universal because human life, at least in its current evolutionary state, has certain things that are the same for all of us. And it's something you have to read more of Jung. I've got to read more of Jung, to be honest with you, to answer that stronger.
We all need to read more Jung, but in our defense, the legitimate, like, going about it the right way is prohibitively expensive.
I've heard that. Like, I'm sure you can find PDFs of it, but I don't think it's the same thing as owning the books.
Yeah, I want a fucking book, man. I want the paper. Fuck this Kindle bullshit.
I got to be honest with you. I don't even think it's that important because Jung, as brilliant as he was, the important stuff is out there in the Pedia articles, to be brutally honest with you. And a lot of what he discovered, he got by examining things that you can examine yourself. And when armed with those ideas, you can kind of put two and two together. You don't need to read word for word verbatim.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of people misinterpret Jung, though, and they try to, like, in sort of like quantum physics, they try to invoke that to legitimize their kooky-ass beliefs. Probably me too, to be honest with you, if I'm going to be brutally honest.
Oh, damn it. Fuck, you beat me to it. I think we're all guilty of it. Young has been very misinterpreted by all of us.
Oh, Eddie says, I got it. I got it. DH gets it. The collective consciousness isn't psychic phenomenon, it's cultural. And that's correct. It's a cultural phenomenon. Oh, Chase Potts. We got another spammer. Get him, get him, get him. You know what? You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to, can I do it now or do I have to like reset the whole thing? Let me see something. So from now on, what I'm going to do, I have to remember to do this. Let me see if I can do that here. There's usually a way to do it. Let me see if I edit the stream. Can I change it from there? There's a way to make it so that only people who have been subscribed for a certain amount of time can chat. And that helps. That really helps.
Okay. I say don't do it. Like, the chat bots are not that annoying, and we just swap. It gives me a little something to do while we're here, and I don't want to limit people who are coming in for the first time, who have questions and whatnot.
That's true, but you know what? It doesn't limit them. It just says you must be a subscriber for a certain amount of time, and I can make that a minute. And if it's a minute, if they really want to ask the question, it's really. Let me just see. There we go. Who can send messages? Subscribers. And I'll make it 1 minute. That way bots can't do it. That's all. So we'll have to just remind people when they start the stream so guys, if you're new here and you want to chat, you got to be a subscriber. That's all. It's not a big deal. You can unsubscribe after we're done if you want. And you have to be subscribed for a minute. This way it just gets rid of the bots. That's all. Yeah. It's not a way to force you into being a sub.
Yeah, that's reasonable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can get behind that.
The bots can keep watching and they'll just try to spam and it won't do anything. So.
You're a beta male Sonic? What the fuck does that mean?
I'm not sure. I don't know.
I know it's coming from CM Heldenkainen, so like
it's got to be like at least a little ironic.
I know it's a joke that's just going over my head, but that's just like that. The timing of that sounded like, yes, this will keep the bots and spam comments away, and then immediately got one. If it came from anybody else but him.
So back to CJ's question, to like circle back around and just really answer it now. So aliens do have their own collective conscious, but the moment they start interacting with us in a way that we can comprehend, those consciousnesses, those cultural consciousnesses would begin to merge and correspond to one another in a way that would be, well, they would merge, quite literally. We would probably find, however, and this is just a guess, we would probably find that any alien that could relate enough to us to communicate with us would probably have some archetypes in common with humanity. Maybe not all, but some. Maybe they would have some that we've never imagined, or maybe we'd imagine them but never make them that important. So, for example, not that it's necessarily one of Jung's identified, because Jung would tell you that it's not just the ones he identifies. There's an infinite number of them, really. But there are, 7 main ones, and you can map them to the engrams and the traditional planets, by the way. So you have the 7 main archetypes, but you have many more. Well, maybe, we have an archetype of father, parent, mother. We have those are archetypes in our culture. They're a little bit more subjective and a little bit more specific to each culture. But let's say you've got an alien that's completely asexual and they literally, like those snails, they have to stab each other to impregnate each other. They won't have any concept of, and they bud off afterwards. They wouldn't have any, a fully formed adult buds off of them after like a year. They wouldn't have any concept of mother and father as an archetype. Maybe that would even, what if these aliens don't have to be taught anything? What if when they're born with the collective memory that they need, and they can, instead of learning, they can literally just scan something and now they know it. It's not, they don't need a teacher is what I'm getting at. What if they don't need a teacher to learn? So the teacher archetype would be missing from their culture. They would have no way of conceiving of what that is. None. So think of it that way. The archetypes that we use may not always relate. However, there probably would be a lot that would. just by the simple fact that if we can communicate, we have at least some symbolism in common. Something about our experience is common enough that we can communicate. You know why you can't talk to a tree? Because a tree and you don't share the same symbolism, period. But trees communicate with one another all day long. If you look it up, you'll find that trees talk to each other, quite literally. They scream at each other. They do it chemically. I don't know why you're cracking up so hard. Was it another CM thing or was it something I said?
No, it's just it's half the words you said and half the way you say it. Just trees are screaming at each other all the time. They just do it chemically. I don't know, if you screamed it a little bit more, it sounds like something that Alex Jones would do a show on.
Let me get right into the thing. I'm kind of retarded, okay? I'm kind of retarded. Trees are screaming at each other right now. And you got to sound like Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
Brother.
You got to sound like Hulk Hogan after like smoking an entire pack of Marb Reds.
Yes. Maybe a carton of Marbs Red. Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I do that by the end of the night. My throat goes. A little bit of Arnold Schwarzenegger in there too. Just a little. I'm kind of retarded. Okay, I'm kind of retarded.
Yes. I didn't mean to throw you off. That was just really yeah.
I love that. But it's, so anyway, for all we know, trees are just as intelligent as we are, but they are so slow moving in their thoughts, like Tolkien did with the Ents. They talk so slow because they're so slow in their mental metabolism. It may take them a year to think a thought that takes us a split second. Think of that. How could you fucking relate to an intelligence like that? For all you know, like you've said before, Fleshy, we're really being grown by the plants to feed the plants, right? We're fertilizer for plants.
Mm-hmm.
They're growing us. How do we know if that's not true? Maybe it's mushrooms. Lola Unseen just talked about what if God is a mushroom, right? That kind of hits too, even though it's not what he's saying. Maybe mushrooms are growing us. They live off of us too. Maybe sheep being killed and eaten by a wolf is a way for sheep to become wolves. Maybe wolves eating sheep is a way for wolves to become sheep. Maybe trees' way of becoming a person is to be eaten by an insect that then eats this other thing and then becomes a flower, and then the flower becomes food for us. Maybe that's the way of them becoming us, and vice versa. I know it seems a little bit weird to think about that way because it's not taught to you in materialistic ontology to think that way. It sounds fanciful and artistic and poetic, yet the reason it sounds beautiful is because somewhere deep inside you know there's truth in that poetry. That's why it's so moving to you. There's something true about it. So, yeah, those aliens would theoretically merge their collective culture conscious with us, and they would unite and they would become one. And in the far distant future, those two cultures would be so unified that you might not be able to tell the difference. Think of it like this. When the early, Europeans came to the Americas and encountered Native Americans, those Native Americans, there's a story that I don't know if it's ever been proven or if it's just an urban myth, but I like the story, so I tell it a lot, where apparently the first natives to encounter the Europeans didn't know what a ship was. So when they saw those ships, they had no word for it, no concept of it. They didn't see them as ships. They thought that they were islands, some kind of strange island. They didn't realize that they even moved for a little while. It didn't compute. They didn't see them as ships until the people started rowing out to them on boats, which they could recognize as something in their culture that they've seen before. Then it began to click what was going on. And it took a certain amount of time before that understanding spread to the rest of the Americas, to the point where sometime in the not too distant future, when the other Europeans went to other parts of the Americas, they didn't have that problem. It was almost like somehow there was something shared in this Ethernet below people's awareness, that because some people figured it out, now it was known to other people. More than likely it was communicated, but you get my point.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like For all you know, you're seeing UFOs all the time, but you just think they're clouds or it's a duck or something that trees could be aliens. You don't know because of context.
Oh yeah. There's the idea that we're all, all these strange and spooky things that go on. We're all seeing the same phenomenon. It just, it's not that it interacts with us differently. It's that our cultural lens, our mindset shapes it different into something that, while still being weird, we can grapple with because we have some type of level of understanding of, oh, something just touched me from the fourth dimension. That's Bigfoot because I know about Bigfoot.
Right. That's a good way to put it. I mean, it's the green, the green lighter conversation. What is this? It's a green lighter. Oh yeah? You sure? You sure about that? What's a green lighter? What is a green lighter?
It's a Bic.
Yeah, it's a Bic, all right. Well, I'll tell you one thing. This is not a green lighter. That's for certain. 100%. That's a Zen koan, by the way. I just use a green lighter in context instead. All right, so I think we're going to wind down. One thing I want to remind you guys is our Etsy store is still going strong. We are going to be having some new stuff probably pretty soon. I got to get with Elena pretty soon to order them, but I'm going to be ordering an entire collection of these beauty mamma jammas, which are based on the Trinity of Self from Become the Maelstrom. I don't know if you can see that. So they're beautiful stainless steel. They're really nice. I've been wearing this a lot, and it's really cool if you like Become the Maelstrom and like the Trinity of Self symbol. I've wanted a medallion like this forever, and she was finally able to come through and source them for me. So it's my design executed by Elena, and I will be ordering a batch of those, probably a batch of 10 just to see how they do. And put them up probably for in the ballpark of 40, 45 bucks, something like that. So it's pretty reasonable. I'll probably give it a leather chain, and maybe I'll give an option for like a metal chain, but I'll probably use like a leather cord or something just to keep the price down. So if you guys are interested in that, make sure you go to my Etsy, which the link I will put, or someone can put in the description. But my wife has a bunch of stuff that's up there, which we haven't plugged in a long time.
There's 3 mirrors, necklaces.
You wanna pop on for a second, honey, and just speak it? Oh, she's in her pajamas. So there's 3 mirrors and a bunch of necklaces, and what else?
The mounted eyes, and there's working on some other new projects as well.
She's got mounted eyes that are still there, and she's got some other new stuff that she's working on. I don't know if you guys could hear her.
Working on incense cups.
She's working on making incense cups. That's right. I don't know if they can do candles too, but yeah, some cool stuff like that. She's getting into resin casting and all that. So some stuff's we're moving on up in the production facilities that we have. And I've got to get a fire under my ass and do a few more little skulls and things just for fun, because those seem to go really well. People seem to like those a lot. So I got to paint some more skulls for people.
Divination dice is another thing I'm going to be working on.
She's working on developing divination dice, which that sounds pretty cool. So there's a lot of stuff that's going to be popping up. So make sure I'll spam the link now if no one else did.
I really hope it's like those kinky dice, but for spiritual practices.
Oh yeah.
Of baby. Roll the next dice, body parts, next dice.
You need to integrate this shadow with.
You must integrate Samael with Lucifer.
Yeah. Well, some people would say they're the same. Some people would not. So yeah. All right. So I think we're going to wind it down. So for those of you who are still here, who didn't flee because of the Buy Our Crap segment, it looks like we lost about 20 people. That always happens whenever it's like midnight and the Buy Our Crap segment pops up. People just start tuning out. We appreciate them anyway, because they're usually here for an hour or two, so that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I have to admit, one of the best and worst things that's happened to me while doing this is, number one, for a little while there, it was enough for me to stop working my main career, which wasn't really a career, my main job. But then, in a way, another blessing happened, and that was I stopped focusing so hard on not that I stopped plugging things, but I stopped focusing so hard on making things to sell. And in a way, that's good, because I had to like take a step back from selling things a little bit. Not to stop, I'll never stop because I gotta feed myself. But for a minute there, I was falling into the trap of worrying more about what I could do that would get me hits or sell products than doing the work for myself and then talking about it. And by sort of abandoning some of that profiteering, I guess you could call it, if I was going to use an ugly word, by abandoning that a little bit, I've been able to get back on track again a little bit. And that's important. And I'm realizing that at some point I might evolve completely away from doing, you know, occult stuff, metaphysical stuff, and might just start doing fantasy books and other things. Not that I shouldn't say I'll stop doing this, but there's people who came onto my channel, like discovered me when I first started, and it was very, you know, demons and this and that, and now it's like non-dual all the way, and then that'll change in a year, or who knows what it'll be next year. You know, I go where I'm led by my mercurial nature. I go where I'm led, and that's part of what makes me tick. I can't do the it's a job thing. When it's a job, I can't do it. I always struggle to do it when it's a job. So what can I say? Yeah, I'm running dry.
I think it's been that kind of a night for, well, I know you and me were kind of both on that page, even jumping on. It seems just that's going around right now with everybody.
And, you know, I mean, with the way things are working out, look, things are always going to get worse and better. There's always a Corellian battle cruiser or an asteroid ready to hit the Earth. There's always some hell that's waiting to get us.
And the most important thing is that those people don't panic.
Right, exactly. And luckily we've had a reprieve lately. Some things have been flipping around that are just, I can look away for a little bit. I don't feel like we're about to go crash into a fucking brick wall right now, which is good. I've been able to relax a little bit. But I got to admit to you guys, I get combination of seasonal depression. I have occasional anxiety, ADHD. Some people think that someone who's non-dual and understands enlightenment shouldn't have these things. That's a dead-ass misunderstanding. That is like one of the biggest misunderstandings you can have. That's like saying that because you're enlightened, you can't have diabetes. Of course you can have any disorder, any mental issue, anything can still happen, even if you have had complete and total and utter non-dual awakening nirvana. You can still, look, the Buddha died in absolute agony after eating pork, which pork was actually laced with a poison, or it was poison. It depends on which conspiracy theory you understand. But the point is that you don't stop experiencing mortal life just because you've realized you're God. Mortal life is still there all day, every day for you. It's, do you suffer it? That's the difference. Do you suffer it, or do you recognize you're the one doing it? People will go, well, if you're God, you should be able to make shit fly around. No, that's not what it means. It means you have put it there as it is because that's where it needs to be what it is, to have the experience you're having right now. Your life is not a mistake. It's not a nihilistic thing to be disregarded. It's not a thing to be attached to either. It is a thing to be enjoyed like a good book, and sometimes you don't like the book and you put it down, period. And if you look at it that way, you do so much better. Yeah. RPS says, that's the human condition, my guy. I'm picturing like the
finger guns.
Yeah, finger guns. That's the human condition, my guy. Exactly. No, you're exactly right, RPS. Exactly. And so let me reiterate. You don't stop being human. You don't stop being mortal just because you realize you're God. And I sometimes have to remind myself of that. You know, and Timothy Foster's, you know, he's talking about his seasonal depression. I mean, seasonal depression's a bitch. I don't get it that bad this year because I've been having like so much cheese and shit. And I think these lights have more UV in them or something, so it doesn't hit me as hard. But, you know, when I feel like I'm longing for something, like I'm longing for a couple of things. One, I'm longing for a cabin in the woods so I can be completely alone. And yet, ironically, I want that cabin to be in a village surrounded by all of you type people. I want to see you guys. I want to have Fleshy there, and I want EA there, and I want Timothy Foster and Blade and Cloak and CM. I want you all there. I really do. I want you over there, but I want you there. Does that make sense?
I want to be able to walk to you. I just don't want you up in my business.
Yes, I don't want you hearing me take a shit, but I do, or fighting with my wife, or throwing something for the dog and saying fetch. But I do want you there in case I want you there. I want to be able to go to the bar together as this big, weird, scary fucking biker cult of like a mix mash of gothic, normal people, weird shit. Be fucking awesome. That's why, you know what, fuck it, Flushy, we really have to put our foot down, and this year we've got to do the meetup somewhere, or at least I do if you can't make it. We really got to just do this thing and just make it happen. We'll as soon as they stop being assholes with all these mandates and different things that they're doing in these cities, we're gonna have to hold a meetup somewhere where they're not gonna be douchey about this shit. Probably on the East Coast, just because I'm a bitch like that.
All right, well, we're going to have to find a way for me to survive out there, but I'm willing to make the trip.
You know, it's basically the same. It's just the sun comes up on the other side of the ocean, right?
I
Especially like up in Maine. That's not that. I heard that's not that different from where you are. So
I don't know. I just know, like, because I'm going to have to pass through the city to get to where you are. And something about passing through the city, I feel
it's like passing through the asshole of the Americas.
I feel like if I was allowed to interact at all, I would probably get my teeth kicked in by a pair of Tims.
No, it's not that bad. It's more like you imagine somebody with a swollen asshole that's like really tight. I know it's a little oddly specific, but just hear me out.
Okay, I'll try to imagine that image.
Try to imagine that, and they're trying to take a monster shit. That's what getting to Long Island is like. So it's this festering, gigantic, swollen, tight asshole where only like a little pencil worth of shit can come out at a time. So it's like one of those Play-Doh fun factories trying to squeeze out this little noodle of shit, but you got a fucking monster Italian sausage log or a fucking, you know, just some big old like bologna trying to come out through it. That's what it's like going from the other side of the city to Long Island. It really is. That there's no, but every once in a while, every once in a blue moon, especially if you come late at night, it's like they had a bunch of X-Lax and they alleviated that swelling, and you just shoot right through, and it doesn't feel like anything. So it really depends the time of day.
Man,
if you come at the wrong
I
time
don't
of day,
know. I feel like I just gotta hire a private plane and fucking parachute down to you.
Well, my plan would be, if we were gonna do this, it would be probably Philly. I feel like Philly would be a better place because I think like people wouldn't have to navigate the NYC, which is a bitch. Philly's got a lot more old world energy in it, in my opinion. Manhattan used to, but Manhattan's become so, there's something about it. Like I can't stand Manhattan anymore. Even though there was cool parts in there like Soho and Little Italy and Chinatown and all that. There's definitely some cool parts in the city, but I feel like, notice we say the city when you're like a New Yorker. You say the city. You don't say New York. You say the city. But Philly has a more just old school vibe. There's a lot, you know, there's all the old, like if you go into the old quarter or whatever, you got like the old buildings. It looks like something you'd expect to see like, you know, Lestat and Louis walking around in, you know, it's just got that vibe. It's just way cooler. And I hear there's actually some decent goth clubs hanging out there. So maybe we'll do something in Philly. Maybe we'll go a little bit further west to make it a little bit more convenient. I don't know. Maybe a little bit more further south. I don't know. But I really would like to do this. I'm really tired of it, of being like, I don't know. Even if only 5 people showed up, it'd be fucking badass. I would love to.
Oh, hell yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, Philly's probably a good spot for that. I'm still like, Seattle.
Yeah, I know. There's part of me that wants to see Seattle before it gets like, you know, falls into the ocean or some shit, like, you know, rained out, whatever. I want to see that Blade Runner energy up close. My sister went there and she hated it though. She thought she was going to love it. She went there. I guess because there was no flying cars, she didn't like it. I don't know. It was kind of weird. I don't know what she was expecting.
Seattle's actually not that, well, I haven't actually ever really hung out in Seattle for all that long, but from the brief encounters, I don't actually think it's all that great. But
it's not really worth it.
It's the big city out here. So if everybody's gonna come over here, then it's gonna be Seattle.
Yeah,
it sounds like a lot of
people. It seems like a lot of people could make Philly or New York anyway. So I think a lot of my fans, because of the time I'm on, it's a pretty reasonable time for them to get here. There's a lot of New Yorkers watching me. From
Yeah, there's fucking in the occult community. In terms of West Coast, there's like Timothy Foster, there's Nina the Mystic, and there's me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's basically it.
He's I forget, is it CM East West Coast too? But he's was he in Canada right now? Isn't he? I forget. He told me.
I'm not gonna blow him up. He is in Canada. I feel like he's comfortable with me saying that much.
Yeah. He's told me.
I wouldn't say he's West Coast.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, you know, there's a lot of places that sound cool. You know, yeah. I don't know where home would be for me. It's, you know, I feel like I know where home was. There was a time I would have loved to.
And Blade and Cloak. That's 4.
That's 4. Okay. Yeah. So I mean, there was a time when I loved NYC. I loved it. I would go there all the time. I loved working in the city back in the dawn of the millennium, dude. Manhattan was fucking awesome. Like through the 90s into the early millennium, right up until about 9/11. Then after that happened, fucking with all the security theater and dudes with machine guns on every corner and shit. That's kind of partially true anyway. It lost a lot of its charm. Like everyone's like security happy over there now. It's like, I'm not into it. You know, I like to just walk around and just be myself. I don't want to have to be like showing ID just to take a shit, you know? So.
New York is cooler in the movies.
Especially now. Definitely now. Definitely now. Let's see. All right. So, you know what? Yeah. Let's,
I think it's a good time to wrap.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm just checking one thing real quick. Because there's some people who I keep thinking, like, I know they got... Oh, there we go. I'm probably going to get, like, fucking... Hopefully that wasn't long enough. Because I suddenly, you know, I see LVX777 has a channel. I know they had a channel. I meant to look at it a few times. So I'm gonna sub that channel, too. So sorry, don't LVX777, if you get a copyright claim because of my video just now, just disregard. I don't have monetized anyway. I was just clicking on your channel to see what it was, and it started playing something. So forgive me, I did not mean to infringe. But yeah. So anyway, I think it's a good spot. I think it's a good spot to call it. Is there any other, like, you know, my life will come to an end if DH Thorne doesn't answer that this week, especially since there's a slim chance he won't do next week? Is there any question before I run, anything that would be just like awesome to get me to like fucking rant about for an hour, even though I said I was about to go? Like lay it on me right now. Who's in a crisis? Who needs a question answered? Let's do that.
I'll give you a minute to let it pull in. And yeah, Jesus Christ, on that topic, I know I keep saying this of like, it felt like it was so far away for so long, and now it's like right here. Like I really think that you shouldn't stream next week or something. Like just take the night. Just take the night, like.
Or just do a stream like in the daytime or something when it's not a deal. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I get it. You don't want to be on next week. You want a day off. I get it.
No, I was actually going to suggest, if anything, like rather than streaming and, you know, wearing this side of the mask and being performative and everything, like if anything, let's all just have a hangout night, watch a movie together or something.
That's not a horrible idea, actually. We haven't done a game or movie night in a while, and I miss those. We should do that. Even if we do stream next week, maybe we should do that next week on Friday or something.
Yeah, I'm down either way. But yeah, seriously, like that's a whole thing. I would want to see you just take some time, especially if you need it. Well,
we shall see. We shall see. Poor CM, he's literally ranting to the point where he can't type it right.
You know what? I'm with him. We're just taking two approaches to try to, you know.
It will happen. It's on my... Look, I've got 4 big games that I haven't touched, and I'm like, well, Red Dead Redemption 2 is the oldest of the bunch. I should play that before it becomes too old for the graphics to be appealing. You know how that works. Like, things don't age because you're so used to good graphics. I have a lot of older games that I'm enjoying. I play PlanetSide to veg out. I'm playing Death's Door, which is a lot of fun, and it's exactly the right game for me. It's a little top-down, little Legend of Zelda style, like Metroidvania type of thing. Pretty fucking cool. So, I don't know. I just don't know. All right, forget it. No more questions. I'm done. I don't see anybody like really having a crisis. So until next time, I appreciate and love pretty much all of you in the platonic way. And I appreciate that you guys are here. I want to thank you guys for supporting me, my practices, my work, my conversations, for putting up with my sometimes arrogant sounding ass. And Flesh Priest, that guy is not creeping me out, but sometimes I look and I go, when's that guy going to move?
Yeah, I wake up in the middle of the night and forget that I have him, and like go full attack mode.
You do realize that if I was like your roommate, and if you didn't have, even if you did have a lock on your door, I would sneak in, and I would put that looming over you in the night. You would wake up with that looking at you at least once before you kicked me out of the house. That would happen.
You know what? It's like integrating shadows though, because like I'm getting less and less creeped by it all the time.
No,
you
that's
know,
a good point.
I have a thing against like tall people too. They freak me out, and this mannequin is like my same fucking height, so it like
well, when you're tall,
perfect.
tall people are creepier than when you're short because you're used to it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. Well, all right, that's it. Until next time, mind the motherfucking shadows, and
Tell your friends, warn your enemies.
never ever take yourself more seriously than your enemies do. Good night, everybody.
Good night, fuckers.